Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. And hello, Savannah, and hello, Georgia. We love Georgia. It's great to be back in this beautiful state with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. That's what you are, American patriots. And think of this, 42 days from now, we are going to win the state of Georgia. We are going to defeat Comrade Kamala Harris. And we are going to make America great again. But we're here today to talk about how we're going to launch a historic buildup of American manufacturing muscle and might. This is not a rally, although it feels like a rally. It's really a little event with my 5,000 or 6,000 closest friends in the whole world. But Georgia and Savannah are going to be right in the center of the action. We're going to rebuild our manufacturing, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen fast and beautifully. For years, Americans have watched as our country was stripped of jobs and wealth, and our companies were sold off to foreign countries. You've been watching, and it's been a horror show. I've been watching for many years, and we had it stemmed. And then all of a sudden, bad things happened. Bad things happened. But boy, I'll tell you, we had it stemmed. If we would have had 4 more years, everything, this would be such a different country right now. We would have had no inflation. You wouldn't have Russia attacking Ukraine. You wouldn't have had October 7th with Israel. The Middle East is blowing up. We could be very close to World War III with these characters that don't have any idea what they're doing. But what a shame. In Afghanistan, what a disaster. That was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country, I believe. But GE appliances were sold to the Chinese. IBM computers were again sold to China. Under Kamala Harris, U.S. Steel is now being sold to Japan. I will stop it. We got to do fast. We got to work fast, but we're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let U.S. Steel. 70 years ago, the greatest company on earth, U.S. Steel. Now it's going to be sold off like it was nothing. We're not going to let that happen. We'll build it up. We'll make it strong, but we're not going to let that happen. But with the vision I'm outlining today, not only will we stop our businesses from leaving for foreign lands, but under my leadership, we're going to take other countries' jobs. Did you ever hear that expression before? Have you ever heard? That we're going to take other countries' jobs? It's never been stated before. We're going to take their factories, and we had it really rocking 4 years ago. We're going to bring thousands and thousands of businesses and trillions of dollars in wealth back to the good old USA. That's what we're going to be doing it, and doing it fast. And under my plan, American workers will no longer be worried about losing your jobs to foreign nations. Instead, foreign nations will be worried about losing their jobs to America. Going to bring them back. And it won't even be difficult. Your only worry will be deciding which job to take. There will be plenty of them. That will be your biggest problem. Darling, which company should I go with? We're going to bring them back, and we're going to bring them back at levels not to be believed, but you'll believe it in about 2 years from now. You're going to say, wow, that happened fast. You're going to have so many companies wanting to come in because this is where the money is. It won't be if we keep running it like we have for the last 4 years. But this is what they want. This is what they want, and you'll hear the plan. I want German car companies to become American car companies. I want them to build their plants here. I want to beat China in electronics production, and we'll be able to do that easily. We have the greatest genius, the greatest minds here, and then we end up building them in different places. A lot of that's really stupid tax policy. I want GE, IBM, and every other manufacturer that left us to be filled with regret and come sprinting back to our shores, and they will. So as your president, here is the deal that I will be offering to every major company and manufacturer on earth. I will give you the lowest taxes, the lowest energy costs, the lowest regulatory burden, and free access to the best and biggest market on the planet, but only if you make your product here in America. It all goes away if you don't make your product here, and hire American workers for the job. If you don't make your product here, then you will have to pay a tariff, a very substantial tariff, when you send your product into the United States. And by the way, you know, for years they knocked the word tariff, properly used, is a beautiful word. One of the most beautiful words I've ever heard. It's music to my ears. A lot of bad people didn't like that word, but now they're finding out I was right. And we will take in hundreds of billions of dollars into our treasury and use that money to benefit the American citizens, and it will not cause inflation, by the way. And you know, I took in from China hundreds of billions of dollars in taxes and tariffs, and I had no inflation. We didn't have any inflation, 1.2%. We had essentially no inflation. Now, you've had, over the last 4 years, you've had the highest inflation, I think, in the history of our country. Somebody said, no, sir, it's only 58 years. Well, that's pretty bad, too. I think it's really in the history of our country. This is the policy that built America, and this is the policy that is going to save America. It's going to save us, because we have gone so far down in so many different ways, not to mention the border, not to mention 21 million people pouring in from places unknown, totally unvetted. But like I've always called it, because it's a very beautiful and simple term, it's called America First. We're putting America first. This new American industrialism will create millions and millions of jobs, massively raise wages for American workers, and make the United States into a manufacturing powerhouse like it used to be many years ago. We will be able to build ships again. We will be able to build airplanes at a much higher level again. We will become the world leader in robotics and every other field. The U.S. auto industry, which has been decimated over many, many decades, will once again be the envy of the planet. We're not going to accept all of these cars. They come in from every country, and it knocks out. You know, I was up in Michigan. We're doing very well in Michigan. By the way, we're doing very well in Georgia. We're leading by quite a bit. But pretend you're 1 point down, please, and go and vote, okay? Don't. Just go vote. You got to vote. We got to win this. If we don't win this election, our country is gone. I really believe it. To the auto workers in Michigan, Georgia, and all other parts of our country, I am pinpointing you for greatness. Your industry has been decimated by many decades of incompetent leadership, both political and at your company level. You had presidents of your company that sold out our country. They didn't know what they were doing. They were horrible. And you had politicians that were grossly incompetent to let that happen. Your auto industry has been decimated. And again, with the electric car, it's all going to be made in China. The head of the United Auto Workers ought to be ashamed of himself for what he's done. But we're going to turn it around, and we're going to turn it around fast. China is right now building major auto plants in Mexico. Did you know that? They were going to start with me. I said, no, if you do them, I'm putting a 200% tariff on every car that comes. And they decided we'll pass. Then they said, wow, now we can build Trump. We won't have to worry about him anymore. Oh, here I am, here I am. Here I am, we're leading in the polls. We're leading by a lot. We're leading by a lot. They said, oh, we don't have to worry about him. No, they have to worry about me. That's why they don't like me. You know, they used to like Obama. They used to like... They like Biden. You know why? Because they got away with murder. That's why they like Biden. They love Biden. Why would you like Biden except that you took advantage of him? They took advantage of him. They think they're going to sell their cars into the United States and destroy Michigan and South Carolina and North Carolina and Georgia and all of the places that make autos. Not going to happen. We will put a 100% tariff on every single car coming across the Mexican border and tell them the only way they'll get rid of that tariff is if they want to build a plant right here in the United States with you people operating that plant. We want American citizens, and we want their plants built here, not 2 feet over the border and selling them into our country. We're not doing that. We don't do that anymore. A friend of mine does auto plants. He builds auto plants. That's what he's great at. He's great, the biggest in the world. And I said, I want to see a plant. Pretty recently ago, I want to see a plant. Where would we go? I said, would we go to Detroit? Someplace in Michigan, ideally. He says, no, you can't go there, sir. They're not. We'll have to go to Mexico. The big ones are being built in Mexico. I said, why is that? He said, well, they have a lot of tax reasons, and China's coming in big, and they think they're going to make their car and sell it in tax-free into the United States. But the big ones, if you want to see a really big modern plant, come with me to Mexico. I said, I'm not interested in going to Mexico. I want those plants built here. And that'll happen. In fact, when they learn about the 100 or 200% tariff, you know, they'll probably say, yeah, let's stop construction immediately. You'll see a big difference. I will bring automobile manufacturing back to the highest level in the history of our country. You know, it used to be we were the only place, and then it just got chipped away, mostly by China and Japan. And all of a sudden, we were down more than 55% from where we were years ago. But it'll be like it was 50 years ago, and these jobs, they'll become roaring back, and we're going to be making autos at a level that you've never seen before. We'll be making cars bigger, better, more beautiful, stronger, and faster than ever before. Billions of people around the globe will soon be buying products proudly stamped, made in the USA. Or if you prefer, if you have to do it, made in Georgia. You can do that too. And they'll be exported through the port of Savannah. We had a little bit to do with that deeper port. Under my leadership, we helped deepen the port. You know that. We helped deepen the port once, and now I understand they want to do it again. And we will get in, and we will get that done very quickly. We'll work with your governor, and we're going to get that done very quickly. This will be a major undertaking involving the Army Corps of Engineers and transportation officials throughout your state. It's going to happen fast. This will happen so fast, you're going to say, gee, I thought he just said we're going to do it. You know, we have a strength over environmental impact statements. Sometimes they'll delay a project for 20 years, 25 years. With me, I think if it takes more than a month to get an approval, my people are not doing a very good job, all right? We'll get it done very quickly. With a world-class port and a world-class workforce, this city will soon become one of the premier export hubs anywhere on Earth, tripling and quadrupling traffic as your power will lead an American manufacturing boom. We're going to have a manufacturing boom, and a lot of it's just taxation policy, tariff policy. They're going to come roaring back. When they have to pay tariffs to come in, but they have incentive to build here, they're going to come roaring back. It's this. It's not muscle. It's all right there. That's a muscle, too, they say. By contrast, listen to the deal, Kamala Harris. Have you heard of her? You know, I had the first debate, and after that, Biden was down 21 points. And they went to him and they said, you're going to lose, you can't win, you're out. This is a coup, by the way. This guy had 14 million votes. We're going to put in somebody else. The last person was going to be Kamala Harris, but then they decided to be politically correct, and she got the job. She was the last one. There were 14 people mentioned. She was number 15, and she got the job. And if you saw her with Oprah the other day, or if you saw some of these interviews, there's something going on up there. We just had 4 years of that. We can't have another 4 years. Not going to happen. But she is offering to companies to entice them to keep jobs in America instead of shipping jobs overseas. First, she wants to listen to this. She's called the tax queen. They love her in other countries because she forces everybody out of our country into their hands. The tax queen is demanding a 33% tax hike on all domestic production. Now, you know, you can hate companies and all that, but they fuel growth and they fuel jobs, they fuel everything. You tell these companies, they don't care. They just assume be in Europe. They just assume, they don't care. They want to go best price, it's called, best deal. And they're going to leave our country in droves if she does that. It's nice to say, you're going to pay 33% more. And one day you'll read, oh, gee, so-and-so, they just signed with China. They just signed with Germany. They just signed with Great Britain is dying to have. They'll give you free tax. Next, she wants the largest capital gains tax in the history of our country. We've never had a tax. And then she's telling people, build your place here, but we're going to have a brand new wealth confiscation tax. So if you make money, you're going to pay us a lot. But more importantly, it's called an unrealized capital gain. You know what that is? That means that you're going to pay a capital gain even if you haven't realized it, even if you haven't sold. So a lot of people are rich, but they don't have cash. Now they're going to have to get cash because if their thing goes up in value, they have to pay a massive tax. You're going to have deterioration. You're going to have a depression. If that happens, you have a 1929-style depression. This woman is grossly incompetent. Grossly incompetent. Think of it. If a company succeeds, you have to sell it to give her half the value. Half the value is going to be owned by the government. So if it's successful, you'll have to sell it because you don't have the cash. It's a huge success. You're going to make a lot of money in the future. We don't care about the future. Sell your company now, and bad things happen. And nobody's, by the way, nobody's tried it. It's a communist kind of thing. You know that? You could say it's a Marxist thing if you like, but communist you understand better. In addition, Kamala is shutting down power plants nationwide, causing electricity prices to soar more than 100%, going up 100%. They will soon be totally out of control. They already are, and businesses will flee. They're going to flee our country. If they can't get energy, they're going to flee our country, and they're going to flee fast. And yet we have more energy under our feet than any other country. I call it liquid gold. Liquid gold. We have more. We have more than Saudi Arabia. We have more liquid gold than Russia, and yet we're buying oil from Venezuela. Why? And it's not really oil, it's tar. You have to melt it. And you know where they melt it? Talk about the environment. There's only one plant in the world that can take care of it because it's really not good. It's the worst. Only one. You know where it's located? Houston, Texas. So in Houston, Texas, they clean this stuff up, and you know where the stuff goes? Right up there. So if you're a big believer in the environment, this is not good. But we have the best oil on earth, and we have the most oil, clean, beautiful stuff, and we have the most. And we're going to use it. As I say, drill, baby, drill. That's what we're going to be doing, drill, baby, drill. And very importantly, she will close down all fracking and all fossil fuel development, which will bring our country into third world status. She's going to close down all fossil fuels. Germany tried it, but then they replaced Angela with somebody else, and that somebody else is now building a coal plant every single week in Germany. Germany was going to destroy themselves, I will say that. They were going to be out of business. They were having problems like nobody could believe. And that's how Kamala treats the American manufacturers. They can all leave whatever's left of them, and there's not that much. They've gotten rid of so much. But if instead you ship production overseas, then she will give you a tax break. So if you build your product, make your product overseas, she's offering a tax break to make it overseas. Now you wonder why Biden has made so much money from all these countries. I mean, personally made and through the family. Think of that. You get an incentive to build your product outside of the United States. I mean, you don't have to be too good at business to know that's not going to work. It's honestly, it'll destroy our country. And you know, one of the other things, even whatever she's going to do, She wants to do it. She's going to, she's going to the border very soon. She hasn't been there for 4 years. The border czar. I'm not the border czar. Oh, for years she was the border czar. Right now she's saying, because it's the worst border in history, but she's going to the border. It's very interesting. But you know what I ask? Well, even her policies now, they're crazy. They're crazy. They'll destroy country. But why didn't they do it 3.5 years ago? Now she's saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Whether she's right or wrong. So she had 3.5 years to do it. She didn't do anything. Our country has really gone back to levels. The only employment was all the bounce-back jobs that we created. Millions and millions bounced back right after the pandemic. Any pandemic anywhere, you have bounce-backs. And they had a bounce-back. But, you know, out of all the jobs that were created, most of those jobs went to illegal migrants. You know that. It didn't go to Americans. And what's happening with the people pouring into our country is they are killing the jobs of the black population and the Hispanic population. They're taking their jobs. So if you're black or Hispanic, thank you very much. Vote for Trump. You'll be in good shape. It's crazy. Those people are coming in, and they're taking the jobs of the black population and the Hispanic. And it makes sense. I mean, why not? And did you see black unemployment rose incredibly in the last 3 months? A lot of people say, why is that? Why is that? They can't. I'll tell you why. Because people are coming in and taking their jobs. That's the way it is. And it's no wonder that under Kamala Harris, we lost 24,000 manufacturing jobs last month. 24,000. We're going to turn that around so fast. We had created 650,000 manufacturing jobs before we even got ready to do it. And now we're ready. We're ready to do it. And the country's ready to do it. We need it. We have to have it. We need a renaissance. It's going to be a renaissance. But this horrific nightmare for American workers ends the day I take the oath of office, January 20th. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, listen to how good it is. It's so easy. It's so easy. China's used it for years, but we have a better plan than them. But they've used it for years. They can do whatever they want. You know, we have to go through certain hurdles, but not much. The centerpiece of my plan is for a manufacturing renaissance, which will be a 15% made in America tax rate. In other words, if you make your product in America, so the tax rate was practically close to 50%. Some people would say 38, but when you added it all up, some companies are paying much more with state and local, much more than 50%. But I got it down to 21% through Congress. Can you believe we got it through Congress? A lot of people say it was the greatest thing we did. I think maybe rebuilding the military was the greatest thing. Maybe the creation, maybe the creation of Space Force was the greatest. You know, we were being beaten badly in space, and now we're the leader in space. China and Russia were eating our lunch, and now we're eating their lunch. And we did so much. We gave you before the biggest tax hikes in the history of our country, and the greatest regulatory cuts in the history. Think of it. We gave you, we took their tremendous tax hikes. We gave you the greatest tax cuts in the history of our country, bigger than Ronald Reagan's tax cuts, bigger than anybody's. And the hikes, they want to do it now. They want to hike your taxes at levels that we've never had before. 80%, 70% was a number that she thought sounded good. But we gave you the biggest tax cuts in history, and now we gave you the biggest regulation cuts, and that's how we had that tremendous growth. That's how we had the greatest job production in history. But this is going to blow that away. We're cutting the business tax now. We brought it down to 21%. So you could say it was over 50, but you could also say it was 39%. We got it down to 21%. Some of your great Congress people are here, and they are very, very instrumental in having done that. But now, We're cutting the business tax from 21% to 15%, which makes us the most competitive tax anywhere on the planet, but only for those who make their product in the USA. See, that's an incentive. So we already cut it to 21%, and it was the 21%, that big cut, it was the 21 plus the regulatory cuts that gave us the greatest economy in our history. It was the greatest economy in the history of our country. And now what we're doing is taking it one step further, and a bigger step, actually. We're bringing it down to 15. Now we're the most competitive in the world. At 21, we were pretty good. At 15, we're the most competitive. People are going to be pouring in, companies are going to be pouring in, and we're going to continue with the regulatory cuts, and that'll be at a level, you know, we already beat every record for regulatory cuts. The problem is that Biden and Harris have put many of those regulatory cuts back in the books, and they didn't do anything. They were old, stayed. All they did was stop business. But we have U.S.-based manufacturers will also be rewarded with expanded research and development tax credits. You'll be able to write off 100% of the cost of heavy machinery and other equipment in the first year. And full expensing for new manufacturing investments. So you're going to get full expensing. In other words, you have a one-year write-off. You buy something, you have a one-year write-off, which gives you... I did that 1 year. We had a 5-year deal. During the period, you had a 1 year, you had a write-off, you take it off. The business boomed, and it was coming in at levels never seen before. And had we not been interrupted, and make sure there's no cheating in this election, please. What a different world we would have had. But it all helped to build the sprawling, state-of-the-art plants our country needs to be an industrial superpower in the modern world. We're going to have companies pouring into our country under this plan. And under my plan, we will cut energy and electricity prices in half within 12 months. And that means for your homes, too. We will commit, because of the fact that we're lucky. You know, China does not have this. Can you imagine? They want to go to electric cars, our people. But we don't have the product for electric cars. We have the product for gasoline-powered cars under our feet. And hybrids. And we want to have electric cars. Hey, Elon Musk is great, right? He makes an excellent car, an electric car. And he endorsed me at a level that you wouldn't believe. Every day he said, we can't have Trump. He's a great guy. And he understands his product is phenomenal. And there's a great place for electric cars. But you have to have gasoline-powered cars, too. You have to have hybrids. You have to have everything. You know, the new thing, and I'm sure Elon will get it if it's any good, but it's got one little problem. It explodes. Hydrogen. They say the new thing is hydrogen cars, but they're having a problem. If it explodes, you end up about 7 blocks away and you're dead. So personally, I don't know about you, but I'm going to take a pass. But maybe they'll figure it out, but right now I wouldn't recommend it. But there'll be other things happening, and they'll be great. But we don't want to have, they have the electric mandate. We'll be ending the electric mandate, all electric cars. We'll be ending that immediately. But more importantly, we will be able to quickly double our electric capacity, which will be needed to compete with China and other countries on artificial intelligence. You know, to do artificial, which is a big hot thing that's happening now. They say it's the next big wave. I don't know. It comes with risk, but it's the next hot thing. But it needs massive amounts of electricity. So if you took all of the electricity in our country right now, which isn't enough, because in California with Governor Newsom, you have blackouts and brownouts. How about him? He wants to go all electric cars, but he can't give you air conditioning in the summer, right? Let's go all electric, but we have a blackout every 10 seconds. It's crazy. It's crazy. But we're going to do things that nobody has ever really had the courage to do, but it doesn't take courage. It's common sense. You know, we're the party of common sense, okay? We're conservative, all that stuff. Who cares? We are the party of common sense. We will build new power plants. But think of this, the electric. So if you took all of the electric that we have right now in our country, you need that more than doubled to be able to compete with China. So they need more than double the electricity that we currently have to have the artificial intelligence, which will be a massive field. And China is already building plants, electric plants. And we have a problem because we have things called environmental impact statements and various things that you have to go through. I will get them approved so fast because China doesn't really need approval. President Xi says, okay, build that plant. That's the end. There's no environmental impact statement. I would ask him, President, do you go through an environmental impact statement? He says, I am the environmental impact statement. With us, you go through years and years of torture, but we're going to do it on an expedited basis. And with the lowest energy prices on Earth, we will have the lowest energy prices on Earth because we got lucky. We're right on top of the best stuff in the world. And I'll put Anwar back into play. You know, for Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. They couldn't get it done. Anwar in Alaska, the biggest field probably in the world, maybe bigger than Saudi Arabia. I got it done. I was so proud of it. I got it done. In his first week, they terminated it. The biggest field anywhere in the world that would supply Asia, would make so much money, would pay down debt so fast. And Biden rejected it. And when I terminated the Russian pipeline, Nord Stream 2, Biden approved it. But he terminated our pipeline, which is Nord Stream, right? The Nord Stream is the Russia, which is Keystone, the Keystone XL. He terminated our pipeline, but he approved the Russian pipeline, Nord Stream 2, going all over Europe, heading to Germany, but going all over Europe. And I just said, what the hell is going on? This was early on. This is in the first weeks of his administration. And I said, what's going on? And then they say, so think of it. I terminated the Russian pipeline, and then they said, Donald Trump was very friendly with Russia. That was the biggest thing that they've ever done, and I terminated it. When he came in, one of the first things he did is he approved the pipeline that I terminated. And they say, I was nice. That was the biggest. Putin told me, if you're like this, I would hate like hell to see if you were bad. They say that you've been nice to me. You have not been nice to me. With all the sanctions, but we had the fake Russia hoax, which, by the way, endangers our country when they do that. It turned out to be a total fake. Endangers, we can't have that. From the standpoint of even business, we have to be able to get along with other nations. We have to be able to use the minerals and other things that they have. But we have to make the proper deals, because we can, with the proper deals, there will be nobody on earth that can compete with us in business. We will attract energy-hungry industries. There are a lot of industries will never be able to make it in certain areas because they don't have energy, but we have energy-hungry industries that will attract them from all over the planet, meaning millions and millions of blue-collar jobs and jobs of every type. To slash burdens on workers and businesses, we will cut 10 old regulations for every one new regulation. And I did that for 4 years, and we got it up to 7 for 1. Nobody's ever seen. I cut more regulations than any president in history in 4 years. And we will set up special zones of federal land with ultra-low taxes and regulations for American producers. These will be ideal spots for relocating entire industries that we've taken in from other countries. They're going to come in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. They want to be here. They want to be, but they were forced to be out because in this country, we were so unfriendly in so many different ways, but especially with our tax policy. We will seriously expedite environmental approvals, and we will get everything approved quickly to unleash mineral production and rare earth. They think we have to go to China for rare earth. We don't. We have more rare earth than they do, but it's protected environmentally. We can't do anything about it. We're going to do something about it. We're going to use our resources to our benefit. And it'll be clean and environmentally perfect so that Americans can manufacture everything that we need, the resources we have right here. American soil, it's got everything. It's got the rare earth, it's got the oil, it's got the gas. We have everything. The only thing we don't have is smart people leading our country. Thank you very much. We're sitting on trillions and trillions of dollars under our feet, and let's use that to make America rich again. Is that okay? We'll pay off the debt. We'll reduce your taxes. It'll be a beautiful thing. You'll never have this. It'll be a renaissance. It'll be a golden period. It'll be a beautiful period. Finally, to exploit these pro-manufacturing policies, their full potential is going to happen. It's going to happen very quickly. I will appoint a manufacturing ambassador whose sole task, and it'll be a great one, will be to go around the world and convince major manufacturers to pack up and move back to America where they want to be. They want to be. For years, we watched other countries steal our jobs. Now we are going to be going after their jobs and bringing them back to America where they belong and where, frankly, they want to be. They want to be. If Kamala Harris gets 4 more years, she will deindustrialize the United States and destroy our country. We will become virtually a banana republic. We will be destroyed. Their plans are horrible. And if they wanted their plans, again, I say it all the time. I said it during the debate, where, by the way, we absolutely destroyed her, except for the fakers on a microphone. Oh, she did very well tonight. She did very well. She did very well. She couldn't put 2 sentences together. Take a look at her answers. And it was 3-on-1, too. ABC ought to be ashamed. It was 3-on-1. And actually, it's also interesting because after that horrible situation, because it's the fake news all over again. Fake news, you got a lot of them back here, by the way. But it's the fake news. But you know what? My numbers, look at the numbers today. The numbers are higher than they've ever been. We've never had numbers this good. So something happened that was pretty good. But it was interesting. I couldn't believe, I thought she was so bad. I came off that stage, I said, she was so bad. You know, one of the things, he's the GOAT of debates. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? They said, greatest of all time, 21 debates. And I thought that was one of my best debates. But, you know, after they spin better than anybody. Well, I don't know if I thought he did too well tonight. And wasn't she really terrific? She didn't say anything, except lies like a bloodbath, like Charlottetown. She lied. And you know what I say, just in finishing this topic? Because they'll say, oh, he fell into a trap. He talked. You know, when somebody says something bad about you, if you then, nobody else, this only happens to me, if I then refute them, Marjorie, if I say, that's not true, and just give a few seconds and people understand it, they say, he fell into a trap. No, if they say bad about me, I got to refute it. I do it quickly, but I refute it. As soon as I refute, oh, he fell into a trap. Why would I let her say something bad about me and let it stand out there? If I don't refute it, people are going to think it's true. These people are the worst. These people are the worst. But it's been amazing what's been happening, and they're hearing what we're doing policy-wise, military-wise, border-wise, maybe especially border. You know, in 2016, I won on the border, and we fixed the border very quickly, and I was very proud of it. After that, nobody wanted me to talk about the border. They said, sir, it's been fixed. You know, I said, I want to talk about the border. They wouldn't let me, even though we got 12 million more votes in the following in 2020. We got 12. But listen, there is more enthusiasm now than there ever was for 2016 or for 2020 because of how bad they are. because of how good a job we did and how bad they are. Under Kamala, there will be no car industry, no steel industry, no significant manufacturing of any kind, and we will be at risk of military defeat. You know that, right? A very simple fact is this: if you don't have steel, you don't have a military. And I'm not going to allow, and I said it before and I'll say it again, and I got along with a great gentleman, Shinzo Abe from Japan. He was assassinated. He was a great gentleman. But I said, Shinzo, we have to change our trade deal. And he said to me, I knew you were going to come with that. I said, well, why did you know? He said, for 25 years, no American has said that to us. They got away with murder. And we changed the deal. And the deal we now have is really good, but the deal we're going to have is going to be beyond belief with every, not just with Japan, with every company and every, frankly, with their companies and with their nations. I'm not going to allow Japan to buy U.S. steel. I'm not going to let it happen. 70 years ago, again, the greatest company on earth. Vote for Trump, and you will see a mass exodus of manufacturing from China to Pennsylvania, from Korea to North Carolina, from Germany to right here in Georgia. They're going to come to Georgia from Germany and lots of other places. And no matter where I go, and I go to a lot of places, we're definitely outworking the opposition. She'll go to one place in 3 days. I say, why can't I do that? Yesterday I was in Pennsylvania. I made 5 stops, 3 speeches. People say, how do you do it, sir? Then I said, where am I going tomorrow? Sir, you're going to Savannah. Oh, what time are we leaving? 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh, great. I got home. You get home at 11, 12, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. When am I going tomorrow? I'm going to Savannah, Georgia. Well, I love you, but I wouldn't mind leaving at 11 or 12 or 1. I'd be just as happy to be on. Sir, we're leaving. Sir, we're leaving at 9 o'clock. We're leaving at 8 o'clock. But it's okay. It's okay. It's worth it. But look, the way I look at it, we have no choice. If we don't win this election, we don't have a country anymore. So we're going to work our asses off. We're going to work our asses off. We will bring back the American dream bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. It's going to happen. We're pleased to be joined today by former Senator David Perdue, who is really working hard on the campaign. David? Where is David? Where is he? Oh, see? He's such a nice guy. He didn't even want to stand up. He just wants to get the job done. That's what you do. You're a great guy, David. I appreciate it. Everyone's telling me you're working so hard. I said, where's David? He's working. He's working. And he's working on the campaign. He wants to get it done. We have another great gentleman, a really fine guy, a fantastic political person, Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. Burt, stand up, Burt. And his incredible father is here. Good genetics in that family. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have you. Representatives, and these are warriors, Buddy Carter. Buddy. Warrior. Great guy. And a very shy, quiet person, doesn't like mixing it up too much. But she is really highly respected in Washington, and she's fantastic. Marjorie Taylor Greene. And, of course, a woman that we all love, and especially we love her in Georgia, Alveda King. Thank you very much, Alveda, for being here. And I also want to thank Governor Kemp. He's been fantastic. He really has been fantastic, and we're going to get this done. But I want to thank Governor Kemp for his support, great support. Starting on day 1, I will seal the border and stop the migrant invasion of our country. After almost 4 years, border czar Kamala Harris has decided for political reasons that it's time for her to go to the border. Finally, she's gone to the border 4 years. What a disgrace that is, that she waited so long, allowing millions and millions of people to enter our country from prisons and jails, mental institutions and insane asylums, and criminal cells all over the world, not just from South America, but many of them are terrorists, and they are coming from Africa. They're coming from the Congo, large numbers from the Congo. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from South America, but not only South America. They're coming from all over the world. It's really just what they're doing to the fabric, to the guts of our country. It's not even believable. And you see what's going on. You see what's going on. They're taking over towns and cities, and they're taking them over with weapons. They're taking them over with weapons that are military-quality weapons. Where the hell are they getting the weapons? But she's trying to con the public that she did a good job at the border. She's actually saying, no, I did a good job at the border. Remember, you know, when she says we're working on the border, she still has airplanes flying in loaded up with migrants over the border. She thought she wouldn't get caught. It took them about 2 years to figure that one out. It was a little strange. Brand new, beautiful, large Boeing jets are landing in airports all over our country, and migrants are getting out. It took a little while to figure that one out. So they talk about the border, but they have planes to this day flying in, loaded up, hundreds of thousands of people being flown into all parts of our country, destroying our country. And she's destroyed the very fabric of our nation, allowing 21 million people to come in, at least, into our country. And think of it, totally unvetted, from places unknown, no checks, no names, no nothing, just come on in. But they do. They come from prisons, and they come from mental institutions. It's a terrible thing. And many, many terrorists at levels that nobody's ever seen before. You know, during my 4 years, I saw the other day, they had 1 year where they had zero. I don't believe that. This was done by Border Patrol. Oh, you know, I have you know my all-time favorite chart in history, right? I have a chart that's my all-time favorite. I love that. Is it around? Is it around? I love that chart. I sleep with that chart every night. I kiss it. I love it. Because that chart saved my life. I look to the right. Bing. If I didn't look to the right, I wouldn't be here with you today. I guarantee you that. And it was amazing because that chart is seldom used, because I don't like to brag. It's seldom used. But when it is used, it's always on my left. It's always on my left, and it's always at the end of the speech. And I do a lot of things without a teleprompter. Isn't it nice, by the way, to have a president that doesn't need a teleprompter? Isn't it nice? Because a lot of, you know, I don't often use a teleprompter, because if you use a teleprompter, it gets very boring. You know, if I read every single word, I could go right down, and you'd be in and out of here in 35 minutes. You say, that was pretty boring, wasn't it? Even with the good numbers that we're putting up, that would be boring. This chart is the greatest thing ever. I said, let me see the chart, bring it down. That was a lucky one, but maybe not lucky, maybe right up there. Maybe not lucky. Maybe, I think, my two sons are great shooters, and they said, Dad, from 130 yards, a bad shooter couldn't miss with that gun, AR-15. And we lost a great, as you know, great fireman and two other people we thought we lost, but the doctors were phenomenal. The local doctors, they were sort of country doctors. They were phenomenal. They saved them. They're okay. And you know the nice part? A friend of mine came up to me and said, the firefighter, Corey, great guy, beautiful family, beautiful wife, daughters. He jumped on top of his daughters, and he got hit right in the head. Right. But you know, I don't know if I've said this publicly, but you know, a friend of mine came, a member of Mar-a-Lago came up to me. He said, I'd like to give the family, and this is not a family with a good life in a safe community. There's no crime. There's no muggings, there's no pushing people into subways, there's no anything. It's a nice community. And Butler, and a friend of mine came up and he said, I'd love to give the family of the fireman a check for something. I said, good, I think it would be great. How much? He said, I don't know. And he handed me a check, signed it, $1 million. I said, wow. And then, and you know, when it was presented to this incredible wife of Corey, really incredible, devastated by what happened. He was a big fan. He was a big Trump guy. He had everything. They all were, all three, but the crowd was as far as they said 55,000 people, as far as the eye could see, and nobody left. You know, when those bullets went off, like if it happens at a soccer game, they hear a bullet, everyone, they call it a stampede, like cattle. It's a stampede, and people are killed. Many people are killed. These bullets went off, but not one. There were a lot of them, 8, 9, and they went off. Secret Service shooter was unbelievable. The local police, actually, they did a great job in terms of the shooting. He may have also hit this lunatic, but think of it. So we gave her the check. She's never seen anything like it. They live a very nice life, but no money, no money. And now she has $1 million. I said, that's only the beginning, because we did a GoFundMe, and they raised about $6 million. And so the other 2 men that got hit were really hit hard. They were not going to make it. First question I ask is, how many people were killed? Because with so many people, no matter where a bullet goes, going to hit somebody. They said 3 are probably dead, Well, the 2 were taken immediately to the hospital. The doctors were great. I was taken to a hospital. The doctor was, the whole hospital was fantastic. I mean, just so professional, so good. He looked at me, he said, you are the luckiest man. I said, no, maybe it's something else, but he couldn't believe it. The doctor said, you know, sir, this would be a good day for you to go to the lottery and buy a nice ticket, because what happened here, I've never said anything like that. But, you know, look, some very good things happen. You know the nicest thing when people say, it was God, and God came down and he saved you because he wants you to bring America back. So many people say that. So many people say that. I hope that's true. I hope that's true. Thank you. And then I had a little more of God's help about 2 months later. You saw that, where a brilliant Secret Service agent, that's all you can say. You know, a lot of people, when they walk down grass, beautiful flowers, very thick shrubs, everything beautiful, they could say, oh, what beautiful, oh, isn't this guy nice? He wasn't looking at this guy. This guy was no games, and he was walking down the middle of that fairway, and he's looking over. And what does he see? He sees a rifle, just a small part of a very big weapon. And he sees a small part of a rifle, the barrel, coming out of very heavy shrubbery. Who's going to see that? Not a lot of people. And he didn't say, who's over there, please? May we talk? No, he took his gun and he started shooting him. And the guy dropped his... So think of that. That's, you know, that's... Nothing's in the category where I have to turn to right. You have about 1/8 of a second where you're safe. But I'm telling you, that's, God was watching there too. Because you needed somebody really sharp. I give Secret Service a hell of a lot of credit. These are, you know, look, they've been hit hard because of Butler, because, you know, the building should have been taken care of, and they understand that. But when I went down, I had 4, 5, 6 people right on top of me, and there were bullets flying right over our heads. A lot of bullets were flying right over our head. They were not sitting back and taking a pass. They were not saying, well, gee, I'm not going to go over that. That's dangerous stuff. They were on top of me in seconds, and you got to give them a lot of credit. But here you have to give them credit, too, because this agent, I would have been in that location within 10 minutes, right? and right next to the guy practically. And this guy spotted, shot. But how about this? He then ran. There's a fence in between, cyclone fence. And he then ran across the street, down the block to get his car. Only a woman could do this because men aren't smart enough, I'll tell you. And a woman, pretty busy road, Congress it's called, and pretty busy. But she didn't like the way he looked. Now, I see people running all the time. I don't like the way they look. But I don't follow them. She didn't like the way he looked. He looked very suspicious. He was running like wild because he had to get away from the Secret Service. And his car was about a block away. She followed him, stopped right behind his car, and started taking pictures of his license plate. Who would do that? Who would do that? And I asked our great sheriffs in Palm Beach, I said, so if this happened 1,000 times, how many times would somebody follow somebody and take pictures of the license plate? He said, maybe none. That's right. I mean, that's luck too, or something. But this woman is incredible. And once they had the license plate, they had him in a high-speed chase down the highway. But once they had the license plate, it was over. If they didn't have the license plate, he would still be out there. I wouldn't be very comfortable. I would say, I wonder if he's in this audience. I'd say, where is this lunatic? But this woman was, what she did was amazing. So I've had a very interesting experience for the last couple of months. My profession is a very dangerous one. If you think of it, it's far more dangerous than auto races. 0.1% of the auto races die. 0.1% and a little more of the bull riders, that looks nasty, doesn't it? Die. Presidents, I don't want to tell you the percentage, but it happens to be a very dangerous profession. But you know, the only thing I can say is they only go after consequential presidents. That's true. They only go after consequential presidents. So we are consequential. We're going to be even more consequential because we're going to do things that nobody has ever been able to do in this country. When Kamala is seen at the border on Friday, she will pass hundreds of miles of wall that was built by Trump, and it's wall that really works. And that's why we have, if you look at the arrow on the bottom, the red arrow on the bottom, that was the week I left office. That's the lowest level of illegal immigration in the recorded history of our country. Look at that. Oh, every time I love it, I just go crazy. I love it. But that's the lowest level of illegal immigration. And that includes drugs, and it includes lots of other things. You know, drugs are now coming through our border at about 10 times. We talk about the illegal migrants, but the drugs are pouring through. Fentanyl is pouring through. I had it down to the lowest level, and I had to deal with President Xi in China that he was giving the death penalty. He was going to give the death penalty to anybody, because that's their penalty over there. That's why they have no drug problem. They have the death penalty for drug dealers. He was going to put this category, those that make fentanyl and ship it to the United States was going to get the death penalty. And I told him, if you don't do that, we're not going to do trading with China. We're going to go cold turkey. We're not trading, and we're going to put tariffs on anything that gets through, big ones. And he agreed to do it. And then Biden, of course, dropped the ball, just like he dropped the ball on Israel with Iran. Iran was ready to make a deal. They would have made a deal in 2 minutes, and now they had no money. They had no money. And now they have $300 billion. They made it all in 3.5 years. What a shame. What opportunity has been wasted. When Kamala speaks, be advised, and we have to tell, this woman has allowed record numbers of people into our country. They're from all over the world. They're now creating criminal havoc throughout the country. Aurora, Colorado, you saw that, where Venezuelan gangs are taking over real estate. They become real estate developers. How nice? No, they're taking over real estate, and they have weapons that even our military hasn't seen. Who's giving them these weapons? But Aurora is a mess. The governor is a mess. You know, the governor is a Democrat, and he's a radical left Democrat, and he's not too popular right now because they're going to take over a lot more than Aurora. They're going to go through Colorado, take over the whole damn state by the time they finish. Unless I become president, they won't last long. And in Springfield, Ohio, so you have a town of 50,000 people. They have 32,000 migrants put into the town almost overnight. And the people are so nice. You know, they want to be nice. They say, well, the mayor is actually looking for interpreters. He's looking all over for interpreters because they can't understand. The language is totally different. What the hell? I'm sorry. You have to move the people back to the country from which they came. You have to. You have to. Every state is a border state now. When she speaks, I hope everybody remembers that she has caused our cities, our towns, and our country itself tremendous damage. Our country is dying. Our country is dying. We're taking all the criminals from all over the world. You know, the crime rates for countries all over the world is way down because they've taken the citizens of their countries have demanded it. They're taking the criminals out and they're moving them and dumping them into the United States of America, and their crime rates are cut in half and less than that. And their jails, which were packed, in many cases are close to empty and very soon will be totally empty because they've taken their prisoners and they've dumped them into the United States of America. We're like a dumping ground, and we're not going to allow it. We're bringing them back. We're bringing them back. And by the way, you know, this is a speech on economic development, but this is a big part of economic development. We can't have factories being built where you have criminals walking down the street with the worst weapons that you've ever seen, with machine guns and everything else. We can't have it. We have to have a safe country, because if you don't have a safe country, everything I talk about today, you can reduce very substantially. So number one, we're going to make America safe, because we have to have a safe country or nobody's going to want to come here. And with her, she doesn't know what the word safe is. You know, she was the head of Defund the Police. Anybody that heads up Defund the Police is not qualified to be a president of the United States. And anybody that lies, like she lies about everything. She changed 15 policies. Now, I've watched politics for a long time. I've been involved on the other side for a long time with helping people out. But I've watched for a long time, and I've seen people change 1 or 2 policies. But I've never seen people change 15 policies. She wants to confiscate your gun. Now she said, oh, I won't do that. She wants to have no fracking. She's 100 times no fracking. There will be no fracking in Pennsylvania, right? No fracking. Now she's saying, oh, I'd love to have fracking. But, you know, they always go back to where they were. They always go back because that's it. She's a Marxist philosophy. Her father is a Marxist philosopher, and he taught her well. And that's what you got, and you can't have that. Our country is not ready for this and hopefully never will be. Kamala's, remember one other thing, and I think it's terrible. She lied about McDonald's. She said, I was a worker in McDonald's. And I stood over the French fries. I'm going to a McDonald's over the next 2 weeks. And I'm going to stand over the French fries because I want to see what her job really wasn't like, because she never. I stood over the French fries, and that was tough. It was hot outside, and it was hot over. She never worked there. It was a lie. And when I asked her at the debate, I said, I want to talk about this. ABC said, you know, ABC, which is the worst of them all, by the way. Did you see that David Muir's ratings are way down? I love that, because he lost his credibility. I love it. Kamala's illegals are also crushing your wages and stealing your jobs. Last month alone, think of this, American-born workers lost 1.3 million jobs, and migrants gained 635,000 jobs. So we're putting our migrants to work at a much higher level than our own people, our own citizens. So as we create millions of new manufacturing jobs here in Georgia, nationwide, we will make sure that these jobs go to American citizens, not illegal citizens, people that came into our country illegally. Your wages will rise, your costs will fall, your job opportunities will grow, because we will conduct the largest deportation operation, sadly, in American history. We have no choice. This is not sustainable. And we got to get the criminals out first. We're going to get the criminals, the murderers, the drug dealers, we're going to get them out of here first. And we're going to work with local police. They know everything about them. They know their names. They know their serial numbers. They know everything. Our local police are phenomenal. We just have to let them do their job. And starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. We will have, ready? No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. And for our seniors who have been devastated by this Harris-Biden inflation that was so unnecessary, caused by energy, they let energy go through the roof. It caused it. And also their spending, but I say even more by energy. We're going to have this for our seniors. No tax on Social Security. They deserve it. They deserve it, what they've had to put up with. You know, the people with the tips, they're being tormented by this administration, too. They passed new legislation and have other legislation that was ready to go all of a sudden. How about her? She comes out a couple of weeks ago, months after I did, but there will be no tax on tips. But that's it. Nothing ever happened. Nothing ever happens with her, because if it did happen, she would have done it 3.5 years ago. That's what I say. And to finish, she lied about McDonald's. She lied. And she lied about almost everything else. And she doesn't understand a question, and she can't give an answer. If you watch Oprah, I knew Oprah very well. She loved me before politics. She was down at Mar-a-Lago. Donald, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Can we have the funeral of Roger King? He was King World, great guy, great guy. Could we have the funeral at Mar-a-Lago? Yes, Oprah, you can. We had his funeral. He's the most important guy and one of the most important people in her life. She was the one that worked it out, but she was there a lot. She loved the key lime pie. I love that key lime pie. But once I ran for politics, it's like, I don't like that guy very much. No, I gave up a lot, but I don't mind giving it up, because we're going to make our country greater than ever before. And while working Americans catch up, we're going to put a temporary cap on credit card interest rates at 10%. We have no choice. They're getting 22, 25%. We can't let people have to pay 25% and 22% interest because they can't afford to pay off their credit card. We're going to cap it for a period of time at 10%. We will terminate the Green New Scam and spend the trillions and trillions of dollars of unspent dollars on roads, bridges, real infrastructure, and paying down debt, not fake infrastructure that has caused massive inflation, along with the energy. That bill was just a disaster, just trillions of dollars. That's what caused all of the inflation, those two things. I will settle the war in Ukraine, and I will end the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent something that nobody else will be able to do. I will prevent World War III, and you are very close to World War III. Biden and Kamala got us into this war in Ukraine, and now they can't get us out. They can't get us out. I watched him. We will win, we will. He's been saying that for 3 years. Every time Zelensky comes to the United States, he walks away with $100 billion. I think he's the greatest salesman on earth. But we're stuck in that war unless I'm president. I'll get it done. I'll get it negotiated. I'll get out. We got to get out. Biden says, we will not leave until we win. What happens if they win? That's what they do, is they fight wars. As somebody told me the other day, they beat Hitler, they beat Napoleon. That's what they do, they fight. And it's not pleasant, but, you know, we've given them close to $300 billion. And you know what Europe has given them? Which is approximately our size when you add up the countries together. Their economy, it's very close to our size. They've given them like a small fraction of that number, just a small, very small fraction. And we have an ocean separating. It's much more important for... Now, why aren't they? You know why they are? Because Biden has never even asked them. I guarantee you. Do you think Biden lies awake at night thinking, how are we going to get Europe to pay? No, he goes to sleep. Here's a guy can sleep on the beach. How do you sleep on the beach when you have cameras on? I will never sleep on the beach in front of live television, I promise. No, the other day he was out cold. I said, is he sleeping? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's a great thing. If you're able to sleep with live television going, somebody told him he looks great in a bathing suit. You know, when you're 82, it's never too pretty. And I love 82-year-olds, but when you're 82 in a bathing suit, I don't know, you know. But he actually was, he was stone cold out. You got to give him credit, though, you know, because anybody that can do that, I find it very hard to sleep. I get so many ideas I'm thinking all the time. This guy just goes out. Lies down, goes out, pictures of him. It's pretty sad when you think about it, right? We will, you know, we laugh, but it's sad. And nobody told us he was cognitively impaired. She didn't say it. She didn't say it. And that puts our country at great danger because President Xi is at the top of his game. All of these guys that we're competing against are all at the top of their game. He's not. He hasn't been for a long time. And that puts us at great risk and great danger. We will rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. And we will keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. Because it's under tremendous siege right now. And if we lose that, then we are indeed a third world country. We cannot allow that to happen. We have so many enemies now. We have so many people. You know, I had no wars other than ISIS, which I inherited, and I finished off ISIS in 4 weeks instead of 5 years that they thought. Because we have a great military that I rebuilt. I rebuilt our military. Sadly, $85 billion of it went to Afghanistan. Can you believe that? Should have never happened. You take the soldiers out last. You don't take the soldiers out first. Took the soldiers out, and then after they took the soldiers out, the Taliban had a field day. What a horrible thing. We lost 13 great soldiers, many wounded so horribly, the legs, the arms, the face obliterated so badly. Nobody ever talks about them. They talk about those that were killed, and I love those families. I know the families. They've never even called the families. But they were 13 killed, great people. But we also left behind billions and billions of dollars worth of the best military equipment in the world. And now Afghanistan is one of the largest sellers of military equipment. 777,000 rifles and guns, 71,000 vehicles, many of them armor-plated. But you have to see goggles and planes and tanks. What the stupidity of these people. We have to get back to a country again. We have to be respected. They laugh at us all over the world. They're laughing at us. And you know what they're really laughing at? Kamala, because they can't believe that she's going to be president. They can't believe. You talk about cognitive problems. She's got bigger cognitive problems than he has, in my opinion. This is how we're going to end the era of inflation and mayhem, misery. Under Kamala and Crooked Joe, we had such misery. Think about what we've been through with the inflation, with the wars all over the world. Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban, strong man, really a great leader, didn't allow anybody into his country. He said, no, I don't want people blowing up our shopping centers. I don't want people killing our people. But he said, when he was asked recently, a couple of times, just recently, he said it numerous times, they said, why is the world blowing up? The Middle East is blowing up. Russia looks like it's going to end up in a World War III. All of these problems are happening. They weren't here. He said, it's one simple reason. Donald Trump isn't president. You make Donald Trump president of the United States. Nobody understood him. Everybody was afraid of him. They feared Donald Trump. I don't want to be the one. He said it. I didn't say it because it sounds sort of, but he said it. He said they feared. China feared him. Russia feared him. They all feared him. We had no problems. Russia was never going into Ukraine, and they didn't. For 4 years, they didn't. When I left, they just went in. It was the apple of his eye. I know him very well. Had a good relationship with him, especially since the hoax created by Hillary and Shifty Adam Schiff and all these people, these lowlifes. And you know the danger, by the way, you know the danger that that kind of stuff causes our country? Tremendous risk. I mean, fortunately, it worked out fine, but there's tremendous risk when you start doing that crap, all made up stuff, made up stories of fantasy land. We will unleash safety, prosperity, and peace for Americans of every race, religion, color, and creed. We're going to have prosperity the likes of which this country has never had. And together we will deliver low taxes, low regulations, really low energy costs. I am going to get the energy costs, forget about companies, it's going to happen for them too, same thing. We're going to get your energy bills reduced by more than 50% within the first 12 months of my administration. And I'm talking now house owners and renters and everybody, your car, everything's going to go way down, and that's going to lead a wave of bringing some of these horrible prices down because interest rates are now, think of it, 10%. We had them at 2%. But low interest rates, low inflation, you're going to have all of this. You're going to get really low interest rates again because when the energy goes down, the interest rates are going down too. It's honestly not that complicated. Not easy to do, but I know how to do it. And I did it once, and it was incredible. Just go back and compare your prices with what you're paying for things today with what you were paying 4 or 5 years ago. You won't even believe the difference. So that everyone can afford, I want to make sure that everybody can afford groceries, a car, and a home, the basics. I want to make sure that our young people can experience the potential, at least, of the American dream. We will stop the invasion. We will end migrant crime. We're going to support our great police. We're not going to be defunding our police. She'll go back to defunding the police. Do you know, I have the support of virtually every major police group in the United States. I just got the support from the Fraternal Order the other day. 400,000 police, but virtually every, I don't think she has one. I don't think, because she's horrible on crime, and she's going to be horrible on crime. She's horrible on the border. She's horrible on business. She's bad on everything. Other than that, she's just fine. What a mess our country's in. And we're not going to have, you know, somebody said the other day, if she won, you literally may never have another election. This could be your last election. And, you know, I used to say it about Venezuela. Remember years ago, I'd say, Venezuela better be careful. And I'll tell you what, we better be careful because we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids. That's where we're headed. If this communist gets in to be president, if she's the president of our country, we're going to have problems the likes of which this country has never had. And once you have those problems, it never comes back. You don't see them coming back. They never come back. We're going to strengthen our military. I rebuilt our military, but now we have to strengthen it again. We're going to build a missile defense shield around our country. We need that protection, just like Israel has and just like some others have. And it's going to be made largely right here in the great state of Georgia. You do a lot of that. No, we want to have a shield, and we deserve a shield. And you have some lunatics out there that are not loving us too much, and we're not going to let it happen. We're going to build a shield. It's going to be all made in the USA. You know, when we build an airplane, and I changed a lot of it, some of those planes are made with parts from 21 different countries. Do you ever hear of anything so stupid? So in a war, we have a war, we won't be able to get a part from various countries. We can't build the planes. And the steel, too. We need steel for our ships. We have to build great ships. We can't say to China, listen, we're in a war. I won't say with them because I don't want to give you any ideas. We are in a war. We need some steel. Can you send it to us? No, we're not going to send you any steel. What are we going to do? We have to have our steel. We have to have our steel plants. There are some things we cannot let others do. We're going to keep critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools. And we're going to keep men out of women's sports. We will defend the Second Amendment, restore free speech, and we will secure our elections. They're going to be so secure. Everyone will prosper, every family will thrive, and every day will be filled with opportunity and hope. But for that to happen, we must defeat Comrade Kamala Harris, and we must stop her country-destroying. This is a country-destroying liberal agenda that we have to stop once and for all. We have to stop it. We cannot let this continue. So get everyone you know, get out and vote. We want a landslide that's too big to rig. Too big to rig. You know, at a certain point, they can't cheat. You know, when it's too big to rig, you know what that means, pretty obvious, but we want to make it so it doesn't matter. Too big to rig, and I think we're getting close to that in Georgia right now with a lot of great help. A lot of great help. On November 5th, we will save our economy. It will go down as the most important day in the history of our country, far beyond our economy, because we're going to save our country. It will be the most important day, November 5th, in the history of our country. We will rescue our middle class. We will reclaim our sovereignty and restore our borders. We will put America first, and we will take back our country. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Well, that was great. It seems like he's always expanding his tax policy. Let me see if this is hopefully not too loud for you guys. I'm a fan. I know he's talked about no tax on tips, no tax on capital gains, and also obviously getting the interest rate, for buying a house back to where, people can actually buy a house again. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, the guy's talking about all kinds of things, military, competence again, not just competence, but superiority, building an Iron Dome equivalent over here. It's very important. These aren't things that you should just, not consider. It's not things you're getting from the other side. And I think he's even talked about the weird things that they do gravitate towards. You'd think that it's the most important thing in the world, period. Not a great platform on the other side. Not one that I'll endorse or I even want to give too much oxygen to over here on this channel. It's, I am a pro-life guy. And that's just personally for me. I don't have a vote for anybody. I get to say I have my say and my thing. And that's my own personal policy. Other things that align with Trump, I'm very strong on the economy. And, but we do need regulation. But we also need to deregulate in some areas. Let's say, namely, areas like Elon's trying to get to Mars, and I think he's getting held up. So, with red tape, and I think it's like Fish and Wildlife, weird agencies, federal agencies need to get dialed back. That's that's the main plank in my platform. So, and he's not going to talk about that too much. I think that's where a lot of the visceral hate comes from. I think it's from people that have attachments to the federal government and those federal agencies. They're not big fans. Some of them are. The good ones are, right? Everybody, I really appreciate you guys joining me on this channel. I wish I had something else to stream for you. I guess if you want to stick around, we could air the Trump farmer. He did something with a farmer's roundtable. If you want to check that out, I can put it on. See if you guys enjoy it. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Just give me a minute here.
Numbers we're talking about. And they said 15 million, 15, not 50. I said, all right, so it's $15 billion worth of product that they were going to buy because they've been taking advantage of the farmers for years. This was like a penalty to China. And I thought they said 50, not 15. So the negotiations were going along. We were getting close. I said, how are you doing with the 50 billion? No, sir, we're close to 15. I said, what do you mean 15? You said 50. I said, no, I want 50. They said, that's not what we said. We said 15. I said, that's okay. Ask for 50. Tell them we have to have 50 billion, not 15. And I got it. The problem is, big problem, that now they don't enforce it. I enforced it. Every single week I'd go into the office. I'd say, how's China doing? Because you have to live up to that commitment. I'd say, how's China doing buying the product? Good, sir, good. They're doing good. And they were doing good because they knew I was watching. I don't think Biden is exactly watching. Do you? Does anybody think that Biden is, let's check it? I don't think so. And it's a shame. And that number is way lower than it's supposed to be. So the first thing I'd do is I would probably, my first call, I'm going to call up President Xi. I'm going to say, you have to honor the deal you made. We made a deal. You'd buy $50 billion worth of American farm product, and I guarantee you he will buy it 100%. He will buy it. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say you have to give the death penalty to your fentanyl dealers who are sending fentanyl. You know, in China, they give the death penalty. They don't have a drug problem because they give the death penalty. But I'm going to say second thing, and this affects you also. It affects everybody. We're losing hundreds of thousands of people a year. Comes through the southern border, now the weakest border in history. It was the best border we ever had when I was there. We built hundreds of miles of wall and everything else, and it was the best border. Now it's the weakest. I had a handshake deal with him. It was going to happen very quickly, and then this side didn't do anything about it. He said, and he suggested to me, anybody sends fentanyl to the United States, it's the death penalty. They get the maximum penalty. They would have done it, and then we had an election that didn't exactly work out too good, and it was a disgrace, frankly. And that deal went, and a lot of other bad things happened, like Russia attacking Ukraine, October 7th, inflation. A lot of bad things happened, the horrible way we got out of Afghanistan. So many things happened that wouldn't have happened, but it did nevertheless. But as to the farmers, we have a deal in place that China is supposed to buy $50 billion worth of our product, and they are not living up to it, and they were living up to it. And every farmer I spoke to a lot of them recently in Iowa, and they're having the same problem. They're not doing well. They're not doing well. They were doing great during the Trump administration. I think you would say that. Were you all? I hope you. This is always dangerous to do, but I hope you'd say you were doing well, because you're not doing now. I'm hearing it from farmers all over the place. And one of the big reasons is they haven't enforced the deal with China. And that deal was really a penalty deal to China because they took advantage of you for 25 years, and it was like a penalty. And, you know, Biden and Harris, they're never going to enforce anything. That group is a disaster. It's a disaster for our country in so many ways, but certainly the farmers are one of those ways. So I think either Rick, or are you starting off, Rick? Why don't you start?
Well, first of all, Mr. President, we really appreciate you being here as part of the Protecting America Initiative. We at Protecting America Initiative see China very clearly, as we know you do. China has quietly but strategically worked against us whenever we are distracted by wars or COVID. China goes in and absolutely tries to distract the American people. They work quietly. They go after our local and state politicians. They go after our manufacturing. And there is no question that they are looking to, at some point, leverage that investment and that activity. I've seen it very clearly at the UN, where the Chinese are very duplicitous. They have a permanent veto at the Security Council, but they also work with the G77 developing nations. They get money from UNICEF just to feed their people while actually acting like a superpower at the UN. They are duping so many people. We know from your administration, Mr. President, you were not duped by China. No. You saw them very clearly. But for the past 4 years, while America and America's Democratic-controlled White House have been distracted by wars, China is getting into our farmland. And we have to be able to see China very clearly. So we want to thank you for being here, and Lee is going to take us off into Q&A.
Well, thank you, Rick. Like Ambassador Grinnell said, President Trump understood the Chinese Communist Party threat and protected Americans from the CCP's attempts to infiltrate America. It is great to be here with the 45th and our next President of the United States, Donald Trump. China now owns 349,442 acres of agricultural land in the United States. That is up 82% from 3 years prior. America's food supply and the farmland that enables it is critical to our national security interest, especially due to China's aggressive ventures into the U.S. food supply. While in the White House, President Trump took on China in many ways that stood up for American farmers. In 2018, he signed a law requiring the federal government to review CCP purchases of land around critical infrastructure, airports, and military bases. That is why we need President Trump back in the White House to pick up right where he left off and go even further. Another one of President Trump's greatest accomplishments was the groundbreaking United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement that replaced NAFTA, improved supply chain resiliency, and put America's farmers first. The USMCA provided new market access for U.S. agricultural products, a fair, non-discriminatory pricing plan, and improved grading standards for products. It has been reported that the USMCA trade deal led to $2 billion in annual increases for the U.S. in agricultural exports to Canada and Mexico, with an overall increase of $65 billion in gross domestic product for farmers and ranchers. Contrast that to Kamala Harris's lack of support for U.S. farmers and weak stances on China. At the time, then Senator Harris voted against President Trump's USMCA trade deal, voting against America's farmers. Harris also opposed President Trump's necessary tariffs against China, and most recently cast the tie-breaking vote for the Biden-Harris scheme that has sold our auto industry out to China. That's what brings us here today, to discuss what Pennsylvania farmers need from the leaders to combat the threat that they see every day from China. President Trump is here with us today to listen to those concerns, to offer his remarks on China's influence over our food supply. And President Trump, if it's okay with you, I'd like to introduce some of our panelists who are here
I'd
today.
love that, yes.
Our first speaker here is Todd Reamer. Todd is a cattle farmer from Westmoreland County. Todd?
Hello, I am Todd Raymer. I own with my wife a beef cattle, cow-calf operation right here in South Huntington Township. My concern today is with foreign entities buying up American farmland while young Americans can't afford to buy a farm or even get started. My American dream was to buy a farm and raise a family there. And I was fortunate to find a farm and purchase it 30 years ago while working a full-time job in addition to doing the farm. Finally, in 2010, I was able to quit my full-time off-the-farm job and devote all my time to the farm. something that is rarely achievable now. I know there are young farmers out there who really want to aspire to own their own farm and ranch, but they can't afford to do so with the high costs of the farm, the ranch, and the equipment to get started. We all hear the word sustainability. To stay sustainable, we need to give Americans a chance to own farms and ranches.
That's right.
So they can continue to produce the safest food supply in the world for generations to come. And perhaps a solution could be maybe to offer a retiring farmer or a rancher an incentive tax break if he sold his farm to a farmer or rancher, American farmer or rancher. Also, if I may, I understand that China now owns major meat processing plants. They hold the contracts on production barns, and they even own feed milling plants all in the United States. I believe that it is Americans should control their own destiny when it comes to food production and the future of it. It's a life of hard work and heartbreak, but I know there's some young farmers out there that can carry the load if we can give them the opportunity. I had an uncle who was a lifelong dairy farmer. And when I was a kid back in the 70s, he had a bumper sticker on his GMC Jimmy that read, "No farmers, no future." That was 40 plus years ago. Since then, technology and crop yields have changed for the better, but the message on that bumper sticker has not changed at all. No future, or no farmers, no future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Matt Carr is here. He's a third-generation farmer of dairy, corn, soybeans, and alfalfa from Westmoreland County. Please welcome Matt Carr.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to be here. Like I said, like I was introduced, I am a third-generation farmer. I would consider myself the young farmer that Todd is talking about. And I am a small dairy farmer from Westmoreland County. We currently milk 250 head of Holstein cows twice a day. It is more than a job. It is a lifestyle, as you know. But I would like to talk now about what agriculture means to this country. Currently is 30% of the jobs and 7.43 trillion in economic impact to this country. Like you had said, you are pushing through to China for dairy products to be sold there. That is a huge market, and I would see that is a large area that we could expand into and continue to push to try to achieve those goals that you talked about. With that, in 1992, there was 130,000 dairy farms in the United States. That number is now down to 26,000. We are currently losing the small dairy farms, especially in Pennsylvania. Our dairy farm numbers are down 8% from 2022.
What is the difference in production? So you have far fewer farms. Well, what would you say is the difference in production?
Production is
Similar?
in Pennsylvania. I think it's down a little bit.
It's down from those days?
Yeah, the farms are getting bigger. The number of cows are still very.
But the overall total production you think is down from what it was when they had so many farms?
Oh, no. Total production across
Total.
the US would be up.
Is up.
Yeah. But we are losing the small family
Sure.
farm like
I
myself.
know that, yes.
Dairy margin is the margin that we have in order to make a living and profit is extremely tight. Our input costs are up. So is there a way for America to, we talked about manufacturing, can we manufacture our own and not rely so much on foreign inputs for that in order to address what we need in order to survive into the future?
Thank you, Matt. Great job. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Nick Stafiri is a hay, beef, and pork farmer from Fayette County. At this time, I'd like to introduce Nick Stafiri.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. President, for having me, and thanks for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Nick Stafiri, as they said. I'm from Lower Tyrone Township, Fayette County. My family owns a small 120-acre farm where we specialize in freezer beef and hay. My story's a little bit different than everybody around the table. I didn't grow up with a farm. I married the farmer's daughter, so I kind of got that on the backside.
Very smart.
My mother-in-law was a full-time farmer in our operation. My father-in-law, myself, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my wife, everybody else had a job off the farm. From 1954 to 2015, we milked 50 cows a day, twice a day, no hired help. It was all on them. My mother-in-law decided to stop milking in 2015 and transition to freezer beef and hay. I'm going to be a little bit different on my story here because my wife and I are both energy workers. So with the energy transition in Pennsylvania, our focus and our ability to have take our financial resources and put those back into the farm has been tremendous. Without that energy job, we wouldn't have been able to better our farm and better our situation. Without my industry and my work family, the opportunities afforded to me, especially like this today, wouldn't be possible. And as you sit here today, you're sitting on atop of the Marcellus and the Utica shales.
Right.
The most prolific shale plays in the world are underneath your feet. My family depends on my salary and my wife's salary, and those salaries are dependent on American, pro-energy policy. With this pro-energy policy would allow operators to develop abundant clean natural gas from below our feet. Appalachia produces roughly 30 billion cubic feet of gas per day. We could double the amount if we were just given the opportunity. Common sense policies that allow for infrastructure to be built here. Pipelines. We need more pipelines. Doubling our output would be the equivalent of putting 10 million barrels of energy on the market for the world stage.
Yeah.
Providing opportunities for families to remain farming, because guess what? We pay those royalties. We pay billions of royalties a year to landowners, just like everybody that's around here at this table.
Right.
And, you know, due to the ups and downs, I want to tell you a little bit of a personal story of mine. Due to the ups and downs of the commodity-based business, 4 years ago, I was faced with an ultimatum. And that ultimatum was, do I chase my corporate job or do I stay here and work on the family farm? My wife and I, we made the decision not to move to Texas. We made the decision that it was family first, that it was legacy over money. So our conscious decision to raise our two beautiful daughters as fourth generation on our farm is the best decision we made in our relatively young lives. There has been no greater honor than to represent my family, my industry, and the pivotal role we play together. The intersection between agriculture and industry, it's a tight-knit one. We need the farmers just like they want us to provide the energy. And responsible natural gas development should not be a partisan issue. It's a common sense issue. So I want to thank you again for allowing me to speak with you today. It's been an honor, and I really appreciate it.
So thank you very much, Nick, and it's great. So without your job, which is a good job, an energy job, but if you don't put Trump in, you're not going to have any energy jobs in here. They're not going to let you frack. They're not going to let you frack. You know that. She's never said frack in her life until just a short while ago when she realized her poll numbers were dying in Pennsylvania. They're not going to let you or anybody else frack. And so I just want you to be aware of that when you go and cast your vote. I'm not too worried about the people around this table, I must be honest, but you never know. But everybody's aware of it, and I think Pennsylvania's aware of it based on polling that we're getting. You can't let them do it because I didn't realize you were so dependent. Even a farmer would have to be dependent on the energy. But you take that energy out, you take that income out, it's a whole different story for Pennsylvania.
Completely.
And we're not going to let that happen. We got to win the election. Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mana Papafavare, the CEO of General Carbide.
Thank you so much. So again, my name is Mana Papafava-Ray. I'm the president and CEO of General Carbide Corporation. We are a 56-year-old manufacturer of carbide and steel tooling components and assemblies for lots of industries that include oil and gas, ammunition tooling, and agriculture, to just name a few. We're a fully integrated supplier, so we start with our own graded powders all the way to making our finished tools, which we've transformed over a period of years.
Great.
This company was started by my father, Primo J. Papafava, when I was just 5 years old. He was a son of Italian immigrant parents. He enlisted in the Air Force to be a navigator, graduated from Carnegie Tech, now Carnegie Mellon University, with a degree in chemical engineering, and then went to work for a variety of businesses, ending up in a carbide company. He worked his way up, and eventually he started his own business. When he started the business, I was just 5 years old. So I'm very proud of our history. My mother and father taught us a lot. And I lost my father now 22 years ago, and my mother is now 5 years gone. But they taught me about hard work, integrity, and responsibility, as well as respect, charity, and compassion. I'm not as hardworking as any one of these farmers here, I can tell you that, but I do work hard. When my father passed away back in 2002, I was left with the responsibility of carrying on our business and taking care of 250 people that work for us in Westmoreland County. But by the time that COVID arrived, we had grown to 350 people with 3 different businesses in 4 states: Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Michigan, and Hawaii. And even though we were deemed an essential business or a sustainable business by 3 of the states, still General Carbide lost 60% of its business in a very short period of time. Unlike a lot of other companies that kind of rolled into the corner and waited it out, that is simply not our style. In fact, one of our core values is growth. And so we went to our sales team and we told them to look for opportunities, even in light of a very difficult time that we were having. And so one of our market segment managers, his name is Eric Butts, he is also a farmer. So he owns his own farm and he is working for us as a sales manager. He started to look for components in the farming industry made out of carbide, and he found that it was quite a large industry. But the overwhelming amount of these tools are sourced here by China. But he thought maybe we would have an opportunity by employing kind of American ingenuity and doing some things on our own. So we started to move into the industry. We've been working hard for 4 years on our different agricultural parts with some success, but not as much as we would have hoped due to the cost structure and this competitive landscape with China. As an example, we worked with a potential customer for prototypes for components that go on high-speed planting machines. We made the prototypes, we put them into the field and tested them, and they tested perfectly. But then the customer came back to us and said that even though our cost structure was in line with the domestic producer, we couldn't come close to the prices that they were getting from China, and so they would continue to purchase offshore.
That's why you need tariffs.
This is a loss of $500,000 for just that one part, and there are so many different kinds of parts that we have out there.
For sure.
We're currently working on components for several aspects of agricultural the market, including ground prep, seeding, and harvesting. And we've had some success. We're using better grades of carbide. That also costs more. We have instituted robotics and other innovative processes. We have 24/7 customer service and communication with our customers. And we're now a one-stop shop, but we still cannot compete against Chinese government-subsidized businesses. Additionally, the purchasing agents are not incentivized to buy on a value proposition. They're incentivized to buy the cheapest parts out there, and those parts are coming from China. So I believe we really need to do 3 things. One, I think we need to incentivize our machine manufacturers and our farmers to purchase American machines with American-made components. Secondly, I think we need a stronger stance on China. You said it, that it should cost more to purchase components from China, not just more to purchase the materials, which is what we're up against now. And thirdly, we need to do a better job incentivizing those in purchasing to think about the value proposition, longer running machines in the field. That's really what we need to think about. So to end, I believe in the strength of this nation, Mr. President, but I also believe that you and only you are going to be able to bring back our independence and prosperity. And the last thing that I want to say is...
I agree. That's why you need tariffs. This is a perfect example. They undercut you, drive you out of business, and then they're going to put the price at double and triple. It's no different. It's been that way for hundreds of years. That's what they did with oil. Rockefeller would open up a station on every corner, and you'd have a gas station. Then he'd open up 3, and it'd cut the price so low, and everybody thought, oh, wow, what a great bargain. He'd put the one guy out of business, and then he'd raise the prices to triple and quadruple what it was. That's the old way, and it's no different with China or anybody else. That's why you need tariffs. We level it off, and now people are starting to understand it. Actually, I was watching Howard Lutnick and John Paulson, 2 of the great geniuses of Wall Street, actually 2 of the most successful people on Wall Street, and they're big on tariffs. They're saying Trump was right all along, and I did it. But that's exactly why they put you right out of business, and then they'll sell the same product, but they'll be double the price of what you are and make a fortune. That's what they want to do, among other things. Can you tell the story of your daughter?
Yes, I'm sorry. The last thing I wanted to say is my hardest job is not running 3 businesses. It's actually being a mom to a daughter that's here with me today, Caroline Ray. She's 16 years old. I'm right there. Would you just raise your hand, honey, so that Mr. President can see? She's right there. She is not in school today, and she asked that she could be here and she could see you. I'm doing everything that I can to try to give her the truth every day. And I just wanted to say, and I told you that 8 years ago when you were running, and she was just 8 years old then, every night she would go to bed and I would kneel on the floor next to her bed and we would pray every single night for you. And every night she would speak out to God and she would say, dear God, please let Mr. Trump win, please. And the night of the election, of course, she had to go to bed early because she was in school. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, when we finally knew that you had won, I went into her bedroom. I scooped her up out of her sound sleep, and I was literally tears pouring down. And I said, baby, Mr. Trump won, baby. He won. He won. And she said, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And so she is here with us today. And I just wanted to let you know that we are still praying for you.
Thank you very much. Well, it's almost more important today. When you add the border where we have millions of people coming in and from prisons and from mental institutions and terrorists and traffickers, human traffickers, drug traffickers, I believe it's more important today. We had a bad border then, and I fixed it, totally fixed it. In fact, it wasn't even a subject at the next election, but we totally fixed it. And but that border was nothing compared to what's happened now. This border is so bad and so dangerous for our country. I think it's more important today. I think it's going to be the most important election in the history of our country. Thank you very much, and thank you, beautiful daughter. Thank you very much. Very nice story. Thank you.
Beth Leeper is a small business owner, former dairy farmer, and current beef and crops farmer from Westmoreland County. I'd like to introduce Beth Leeper.
Mr. President, government and elected officials, and honored guests, thank you for coming to Western PA again today to hear our concerns and address solutions. My name is Beth Leeper, and to play opposite of Nick, I married the farmer's son, who is here today with my 2 sons, Levi and Owen. I am a Christian, a wife, a mother of 3, and a small business owner in that particular order. I, with my husband Brian, own and operate a direct-to-consumer, on-the-farm market featuring beef that has been raised on the family farm in Donegal, PA. We procure lamb, chicken, and pork from other small farms in Pennsylvania like ours, and all the animals are harvested through local processors to our specifications. Since opening in 2017, our goal has been to provide our customers with consistently high-quality products while also supporting other small businesses and our community. In May of 2020, we expanded our store and offerings due to the needs of consumers during COVID and to offer other businesses another avenue to sell their goods. We now offer several agricultural and specialty items, all produced in or near the Laurel Highlands area. My husband is also a full-time owner-operator of transport in the dry bulk industry, and I also work part-time for a Christian school as the food service director. I share our occupations as an introduction to explain the challenges, due in large part to the inflation that we have seen, that we have witnessed and experienced both as a producer and a retailer and also a consumer. As a truck driver, my husband normally fills his truck 2 to 3 times a week with diesel. In January of 21, just after Biden revoked the Keystone Pipeline, one of our fuel receipts totaled $592 for 200 gallons of fuel. That was $2.99 a gallon. In May of 22, a year after our energy independence moved overseas, one of our fuel receipts totaled $996 for 166 gallons of fuel. That was $5.99 a gallon. That $3 per gallon more means upwards of $800 to $1,200 a week in fuel expense, unless to meet our business and families' needs. This net zero approach has also increased farm costs exponentially, which I know comes as no surprise to anyone here today. Fertilizer is up 30 to 60% in 2024, not to mention the increase in seed cost, the fuel, the parts and supplies, and man hours for planting. Electric has doubled from around $400 a month in 21 to $800 a month this year, just to run some equipment and the lights that doesn't include heat. In 2023, feeder calf prices reached an all-time high, coupled with the increase in other commodities and prices to farmers not keeping up. This equals very small profit margins, and therefore, we have been purchasing a fraction of the feeder cattle that we have the capacity to feed. Our farm currently feeds out approximately 70 to 100 head of cattle, and that is reduced from 180 to 200 head just 2 to 4 years ago. But we have the capacity to feed upwards of 400 to 500. Actually, we are currently feeding only enough to satisfy our direct-to-consumer base, as it remains somewhat constant. The seasonal tourism of camping and skiing in the Laurel Highlands contributes to our sales, and we are located in the heart of the Laurel Highlands. I handle all of the customer relations for our on-the-farm market, and our customers often share their concerns with me. These are some of the things I hear most often. I really don't eat a lot of beef anymore. It costs too much. I can't afford to purchase a whole animal this year. What smaller packages do you offer? We are visiting from out of town. We don't have any places like this where we are from. And recently, the thing I've heard the most is I used to purchase bulk beef from a farmer nearby, a friend, a relative, but they don't have cattle anymore. Just last week, a local dairy in operation for over 65 years announced the closure of their bottling operations due to rising costs of supplies and down demand. Other farms in the area have declared bankruptcy or sold off property and downsized. I can't even get started on the detrimental effects that the weather has had on the vegetation in our region this year. From hailstorms to droughts, our corn and soybeans were among the victims. Nevertheless, farmers are no strangers to the risk and the gamble that they take every single day in order to do what they know and love, and that is to farm their land. And as always, this too shall pass, hopefully soon. Jeremiah 29:11 tells us, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." I'm not an economist, and to be honest, foreign policy is not in my wheelhouse. But this roundtable event is to address on how to protect our farms and food from China. It seems like basic, conservative common sense to me. Do what it takes to keep our farms producing, our markets selling, and our customers buying. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Dave McCormick, known national security expert, a fellow former veteran of the 82nd Airborne Division, and hopefully our next senator here from Pennsylvania. Dave McCormick.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee. Mr. President, thank you for being here. And, a lot of bad things have happened over the last 3.5 years, but there's two particularly relevant to this audience. One is, as Lee said, China now has the upper hand. China is our adversary, smells weakness in all of its relationships with the United States because of the weak policies of Harris, Biden, and Bob Casey, who's been a 98% vote.
Right.
The second bad thing that's happening is our family farms, as you're hearing, our farms across Pennsylvania are struggling. Agriculture is the biggest industry in Pennsylvania. We have 52,000 farms. And under the Biden-Harris-Casey administration, it's been a disaster. Everywhere I go, I hear the skyrocketing prices, the price of inflation. I hear the burden of regulation. I hear the implications of the war on fossil fuels and what it's done to our farmers. And so when you're back in the White House and we have a majority in the Senate to support your agenda, and I've heard you talk about this, I think the people in this room can have a lot of confidence in fair reciprocal trade. Under your leadership, we had that. We've lost that. We'll get that again. Under your leadership, we can make sure we reduce our dependence on China for semiconductors, for pharmaceuticals. We got to have food security. And the people in this room are the providers of food security, not just for Pennsylvania, but for America. You know, we got to stop this buying of farmland. It's going up dramatically. It hasn't hit Pennsylvania much yet, but nationally it's growing dramatically. It'll come to Pennsylvania too. I know you're going to stop that. And then finally, I'm so glad you said it, energy. I mean, the reason many of these family farms are still operating is because of the energy revolution, the royalties that come from the wells on their properties, the incomes coming from energy workers. So this is a very simple choice for the people in this room and the farmers across Pennsylvania. It's a choice between strength and weakness. It's a choice between common sense policies that get our economy back on track, create a balance in our relationship with China, get the upper hand again, and unlock our energy, versus a radical liberal agenda under Harris and Casey, which will take our country further in the wrong direction. I think I can say with a lot of confidence, Mr. President, the Pennsylvania farmers, the agriculture community here has your back. Thank you.
I think they do. Thank you. And you're right, David. Bob Casey, and I've been there for a long time, actually, 4 years, but a long time. He has done nothing for the farmer. He has not been there. He's 100% with the Biden vote, I guess just about 100% of the time. Bob Casey is not the right one. This gentleman right here, he's tough, he's smart, and he loves the farmer, and we're going to turn it around. But Bob Casey cannot help us. He has never done it. Not good for the farmer. So I think you probably learned that the hard way. Thank you very much, Ed.
Thank you, sir.
Darrell Becker is the Fayette County Farm Bureau president. This time I'd like to introduce Darrell Becker.
Thank you. As Mr. Zeldin said, my name is Darrell Becker. I'm a 30-year Fayette County farmer who operates a beef, sheep, and hog farm with my wife, 2 adult children, and my son-in-law. And we have an intergenerational family. I have 3 of my grandkids live with me. It's wonderful. I also serve as president of the Fayette County Farm Bureau for the last 6 years, and I'm also the chairman of the Lands Preservation Board for the last 6 years. And I was going to talk about land preservation, but I got beat up by my local members who tell me that I need to talk about soybeans. So I will tell you that we all know that China has no desire to buy products from us. We know that from what happened in your last administration, where they didn't even want to deal with fair trade. They're working on being less dependent on U.S. goods, and likewise, we need to be less dependent on them. This is incredible. Last week, news came out from California's All Resources Board, CARB, a governing body in charge of the state's air quality rules, who wants to mandate a limit on the amount of biodiesel fuel produced from soybean and canola oil. Under the proposal, beginning in 2028, they would only be eligible for low carbon fuel standards who use canola and things, will only be able to get 20% of the credits of their annual production. Those replacing American grain production used for oil would be assigned a higher carbon intensity score, thus reducing the interest in U.S. bean products. Meanwhile, the USDA has just reported that renewable diesel fuel imports surged 30% higher last year in the first 5 months of this year so that they could take advantage of these federal and state tax credits. In addition, imports of used cooking oil from China are flowing into the U.S. like never before to capture these biofuel tax credits. Farm Bureau and other biofuel advocates are pressing regulators to close the loophole so that only domestic producers are eligible for these tax credits. Because of this change, estimates project that American farmers in California alone would lose 200,000 acres of production. This is diametrically opposed to what American agriculture is all about. We know China's not our friend. 20 figures, that's why I got to read. I can't remember all these things. 2024 corn receipts are down 20%. Soybean receipts are down 14%. Wheat receipts are down 12%. Government payments to make up the shortfall are not due until October 2025. Expenses for 2025 may expect to decline 1%, But last year, in 2009, China bought 49% of our exported soybeans. Now it's 31%. 70% of our bean crop goes to animal feed. Bean exports in 2023 were $34.4 billion. In 2024, they're estimated to be $27 billion. China owns 384,000 acres of our farmland. That's up 30% in the last 5 years. And guess what? The American government can't buy farmland in China. They don't allow us.
That's right.
Can you imagine that? At present, the U.S. has a huge supply of soybeans sitting at a multi-year low price, sometimes being sold below production cost. Farmers are using reserve funds to buy and produce soybeans now. There's no cash flow available to them due to the low price. You know this is unsustainable. So soybean farmers definitely need our help. Sustainable aviation fuel also uses soy, canola, and other seed crops from American farmer, and this is also under attack. We are putting ourselves at extreme risk in the supply chain, knowing that a huge amount of the herbicide 2,4-D and many repair parts for agricultural use are imported from China. How much risk can we absorb and rely on a country that is trying to replace us? We need to build domestic demand. Our government needs to invest in American agriculture. American farmers want a free market that can sustain the industry. They don't want handouts, and they don't want loans. They want to be able to produce their farms. They're all hard. This is the backbone of America. The current administration has shown that they are not friendly to American agriculture. Every producer that I spoke to for this presentation resonated the same message. We cannot survive another 4 years. Mr. President, my 3 grandkids who live with me, if you could see Henry, who's 3, and Holden, who's 2, get into the UTV and drive down to what they call the big barn when we feed our steers, or they go pick chicken eggs, or they help us move cattle. The spark in their eye, the smile on their face, that's the future of America, and I want to make sure it stays here, and I know you do too. So I guess they all said that we wouldn't survive 4 years. I'm sure that when you get elected, that my line would be, help us make American agriculture great again.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. President.
We'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. It's not very difficult to do. We're just being ripped off by other countries, and not only China, by the way, but we're being ripped off at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And this administration has allowed it to happen because you were making probably the best you've ever done 4 years ago, 5 years ago. You were doing better. All farmers were. They were doing better than they ever did. And now they're doing very better. I mean, I hear more complaints from farmers than almost anybody, and that's the backbone of this country. So they'll be very happy for a long time to come, okay?
Can I add one more thing and say to you that we've seen the decline of the mom and pop stores. And what you're hearing is that we're seeing the decline of the American family farm. That's America. So, I mean, anybody that starts paying attention to what's going on needs to wake up and get out and vote. And we know who they got to vote for. You, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I love your hat, too, by the way. I noticed it right away. Thank you very much. We'll take care of them. Your grandchildren will be farmers. And they'll be maybe doing better than you do, okay? Thank you very much.
Before we introduce our final speaker, Kevin Sweeney, just want to say thank you to my former colleague, Chairman G.T. Thompson, the chair of the House Committee on Agriculture. We have Kim Ward, the Senate President here in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and Dan Mall, who is the GOP chair of the Pennsylvania House Ag and Rural Affairs. At this time, we're going to introduce our final speaker, Kevin Sweeney, who's a cattle farmer from Washington County. Kevin?
Thank you. Mr. President, I want to thank you for your personal sacrifice for us and your family. Thank you. I'm 71 years old. I'm a new farmer. I've owned my property since 1988. I'm a retired physical therapist, and I have 4 kids and 4 grandkids, and my goal is to develop this farm and make it a legacy farm like some of the people around the table are now talking. I raise beef and sell hay. That's all I can do. My soil is type 7 soil. The USDA has a soil map of the entire country. That soil is only good for raising grass and beef, and maybe grow some trees for timber. but I'm trying to expand it each year. I have a customer base that's getting bigger each year, and I've been full-time retired since 2019, and that's what I do. The issue that I want to talk about today in regard to China is solar panels. I'm being approached, and other farmers are being approached. The current offer is $3,000 a month per acre per year for the next 30 years. That's a lot of money. Who's subsidizing that? Is our government behind these people that are offering us this money? Where's that coming from?
Well, they are.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
That's right. They are, and they're allowing China to come in and just dominate the industry. That's right. They're sending panels over. Many of them are very defective, very bad panels, but they're sending them over, and they are really putting a lot of people out of work. But that's amazing.
It's an issue.
That's a form of subsidy.
Most of the small farms that are around me, I'm very close to Enlow Fork Bailey Mine Complex. It's one of there's the top 10 underground coal mines in the country, and they're in that group. They mine a lot of coal. All that coal goes down the railroad, into the rivers, and goes to China. Okay, and it's unfortunate. These companies I'm surrounded by have bought up a lot of the small farms that I was fortunate enough to buy in 1988. They were beef farms. They were the same type of farmers as mine, but they own all these. They own all this property. Okay, my concern is, what if one of these foreign entities come in, and even though they don't own the land, they buy that company and then directly have control of the lease or that land and are able to use it for whatever reason. My other concern is the federal government. What if, for public use, they come in and say that they want to take my farm and put solar panels on it? What guarantee do any of us have that the government, Big Brother, won't come in and do that to us? We need to know about that. That concerns me. In the news right now is the sale of U.S. Steel to Japan. Okay, and I just happened to be researching it. I didn't realize that U.S. Steel has a land division, huge land division. They have vast holdings in this country. So when when Japan buys U.S. Steel, they're buying a lot of land with it. Will they have the ability to put solar panels on it or use it for another purpose? We don't know. It concerns me. U.S. Steel also owns a lot of coal mines and iron ore mines, which I didn't realize. They have all these iron ore mines out west, and a foreign entity is now going to own all those. And I've said this for a long time. I'm from the Mon Valley, and when I grew up, there were steel mills everywhere. Everybody in my family worked for steel mills. There's none left. They're torn down. They're not even there. The same with coal-fired power plants. They're gone. Should we have some sort of a strategic plan to keep some of these steel mills and to keep some of this stuff as a strategic reserve, whether it's minerals, not only oil, but coal, iron ore, those sort of things? It concerns me that that's just going to go away to foreign countries. It worries me. I have a couple of tax concerns, one being the death tax. My 4 kids, what's going to happen when I'm 71 years old when I'm not here? They're going to pay big money, or they're going to have to sell out, or they're going to have to go get solar panels to keep the property. So, if you can do something about the death tax, appreciate it. So.
By the way, the death tax, as you know, in the Trump bill, you don't have to pay a death tax or a inheritance tax. And under them, they want that terminated. They want you to pay. And what happens, especially with farmers, you're sort of land rich but cash poor. A lot of farmers are land rich and you love it, but you don't always have cash. And you leave it to your loved ones. You leave it to your children, which you want to do. That's what the ultimate is. If you love your children. In some cases, you don't love your children. You don't have to leave them anything, right? But generally, you love your children. And you leave. You have no problem with your children. But you leave it to your children, and what was happening is people were going out borrowing a lot of money in order to pay the tax, borrowing from the banks on their farm, big liens on the farm, very smart banks that know how to do it, and the children would go bust, or they'd spend everything they could to pay the tax, and they'd live a very tough life and usually lose the land. I got rid of that. You have no tax to pay on these small farms and businesses. And it's a great thing. Nobody talks about it much. The fake news doesn't ever talk about it, but it's a tremendous factor in I mean, it was one of the things that I was happiest about because literally farmers are going out of business. Children, they take the farm from their parents and they have to go out borrow a lot of money and they can't afford to do it and they can't pay the interest rates. They end up losing the farm over a short period of time. So we got rid of the estate tax or the death tax, and now it will come back under play under Comrade Kamala. That's what happens. That's not good.
What about our capital gains tax? Are we going to keep that down?
Well, that's the worst. I mean, they have unrealized capital gain. How about that?
Yeah,
one?
how about that?
Unrealized. So they want to give you a capital gain if the value of your land goes up. Nobody's ever heard of it before. It's a communist thing, you know. It's a communist thing. It's unrealized capital gain. You'll have every business person, every company leaving this country. It's called an unrealized capital gain. And it's a concept that's been talked about for years. I don't know if any country has even done it, but she wants to do it here. And, you know, come to think of it, now that I'm with farmers, it'll affect farmers probably worse than anybody.
We have all the minerals under us which we own, and they're going to put a value on those, and even though we haven't taken
You
them,
know who's going
we
to
have
make a lot of
pay
money?
for it.
Appraisers, lawyers, and accountants.
Well, I have
Not
two
you.
accountants, two of my sons are accountants.
They'll be very happy. It's crazy.
I have some expenses regarding fuel, okay, and I had the opportunity to call up my fuel provider last Thursday when I found out I was going to be here, and I'll just give you a couple of numbers. Use a fair amount of off-road diesel. Off-road diesels come down in price surprisingly in the election year. Yeah, right now, 2024, I can buy off-road diesel for $2.95 a gallon. Okay, in 2020, $1.86. Regular diesel, you know, I use for my truck. It has a road tax and stuff on it. It's around $4.50 a gallon now. Back in 2020, it was around $2.80. Non-ethanol gasoline, you know, ethanol gasoline. As much as we want to have ethanol, it's not good for small equipment, chainsaws, and all the small equipment. It eats up the carburetors. It's really not a good thing to have in small equipment. And so I use non-ethanol gas. Right now, it's $4 a gallon. 2020, it was around $3.15, so it's gone up. Propane I use to heat with, it stayed about the same. It was $1.97 a gallon in 2024. In 2020, it's $1.65. But you know, the other thing, I lime my fields, you know, because the pH, you know, is low. You got to have a certain pH to grow good grass, just like the golf course. You understand that part. Anyways, just recently, I had an arrangement to have some delivered and spread. It was $45 or $50 a ton. They call me up. Well, there's been a price increase. It's $70 a ton now, just out of the clear blue. It increased my expense. Fertilizer was $600 a ton. I'm paying $1,000 a ton for fertilizer. I mean, it's just costs are out of control.
Terrible.
The only thing that helps me is the fracking and the money that I was able to get from that. It's allowed me to keep my equipment. It's allowed me to buy another farm adjacent to me. And I'm hopeful that the fracking continues, and I know it will. And I'm hoping we get more of it so that my kids won't have to be forced at my demise to sell the farm to pay the tax.
You'll be around a long time. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
But it will not continue.
I'm not a worrier.
They get in, the fracking will not continue. I guarantee you that.
My concern in this environment is that small family farms in Pennsylvania are in peril from two sources. One is the foreign competition we've talked about, and the second, I believe, is the federal government. And we need to be left alone. Just get out of our lives, leave us alone, we'll figure it out. Thank you, sir, for your time.
Thank you, Kevin. And Mr. President, I know you're about to get on the road to an amazing rally up in Indiana, but before you leave, and I know Ambassador Grinnell had some final words, would like to turn the floor over to our next president, Mr.
Well, thank you
Mr.
very
Trump.
much. And it's been great. I love the farmers. I'm very comfortable with the farmers. I feel I know your business, but I haven't plowed quite as much as you. But I do know your business very well. We've had a tremendous relationship. I've always won with the farmers, and that's because I produce promises made, promises kept. Number one, your energy bill within 12 months will be cut in half, and that's my pledge all over the country. Beyond farmers, that's my pledge all over the country. We have more energy under our feet than any other country. We have, I call it liquid gold, and we have more than any other country. We have Anwar in Alaska, which the first thing they did, the Biden-Harris administration, everybody wanted it. It's the biggest it could be as big or bigger than Saudi Arabia, and would have supplied Asia, would have supplied vast parts of the world, would have made more money than you could even imagine. We were going to lower your taxes, pay off debt. They terminated it. Reagan wanted it, couldn't get it. Everybody wanted it, couldn't get it. I got it. They were all set to drill, and the first thing they did the first week is they terminated ANWR. But I can get it back very quickly because I got it through Congress, and we'll get it back very quickly. They didn't terminate it through Congress. They just terminated it. Just absolutely ridiculous. But I'll have your energy bill down within 12 months. We'll have your energy bills throughout the country. I'm not just talking here. I'm talking all over. Air conditioning, heating, everything. We'll have it down by 50%, 50. And it won't even be very hard. You know, up in New England, they have tremendous energy costs, and a few minor changes and we can reduce it. New England is a disaster. I won't say they vote for Democrats so much anymore. I think we're probably taking that over because of energy and because of a lot of other reasons. But we're going to protect your fracking. You know, in my case, I was always for it, and in her case, she was never for it. She wants to defund the police, too. All of a sudden, she likes the police. Started a short while ago. I really like the police a lot. Now, she wanted to defund the police. She did things in Minnesota that were so bad. She was bailing out people that wanted to kill the police and were actually trying to kill the police and burning down Minneapolis. So we're going to do things the way you wanted. A big factor here is, with all of you as I speak, is energy in two ways. Number one, you want to be able to collect royalties and other things, or even have a job in energy. That's very important to help your farm. And the other thing is you got to keep the prices down. So we're going to do both, and we'll do it fast too. It'll be largely taken care of within 12 months. I predict within 12 months it'll be down 50%. And if they get in, your energy costs are going through the roof. Okay, they're going to go through the roof. You won't have a farm very long. I will tell you that. I just noticed behind me John Deere tractors. I know a lot about John Deere. I love the company, but as you know, they've announced a few days ago that they're going to move a lot of their manufacturing business to Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States, so that if I win, John Deere is going to be paying a 200%. They haven't started it yet. Maybe they haven't even made the final decision yet, but I think they have. John Deere is going to, and anybody else that does this, because it's hurting our farmers, it's hurting our manufacturing. And if you do that, you're going to have a 200% tariff put on the product that you make in Mexico, right across the border. They think they're going to make product cheaper in Mexico and then sell it in for the same price as they did before, make a lot of money by getting rid of our labor and our jobs, and really a great name, because John Deere is a great name. I buy a lot of John Deere, tremendous. I'm one of their big customers. I buy a lot of John Deere product as a private person. But if they're going to do that, we're going to put a 200% tariff on everything that they want to send back into the United States, which means one of two things. Our country is going to make a lot of money, or they're not going to build, they're not going to open, and or they're going to sell it to another country. They're entitled to do that. If they want to build in the country, in the United States, there's no tariff. You can go ahead and you can build in any one of the 50 states. You can go ahead. But if they don't want to do that, we're going to put a 200% tariff on John Deere. And you know what's going to happen? They're going to announce very shortly, if they think I'm going to win, or if I do win, they're going to announce that they're not going to build in Mexico. Mexico's taken a tremendous amount of our business, especially over the last few years with this group, because this group doesn't know what the hell they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. Mexico is taking a lot of business, and a lot of it's done and financed by China. China is building massive car plants now in Mexico. And it's the same thing they're building. And a friend of mine builds car plants, and he said the biggest ones in the world are being built in Mexico. They're going to put Detroit out of business. They're going to put car manufacturing out of business in the United States. And I'm just telling everybody involved in this stuff, we're not going to rip off the United States anymore. We're going to put big tariffs on those cars that are coming in here at 100 to 200%, and they're no longer going to be competitive. So you better stay in Michigan, and you better stay in the areas that you're in right now. And what I really want you to do is come in and build your plants in this country and put our auto workers to work, because we've lost about 60% of our auto working business over the years. And we're going to get it all back, every one of them. We're going to get it all back, and we're going to get it back quickly. And we can control that so easily. So if they're building those plants in Mexico, which they're starting, if they're building and they wouldn't have done it with me, but now I guess they figure when they started, it was a little while ago. I guess they didn't even know I was going to run. They weren't too happy when they heard I was going to. But they're going to have to pay a tremendous tariff, which means two things. They're not going to build the plant if it's not too late. They're not going to build the plant. This country is going to make a lot of money. Or they're going to build the plant, but they're going to build it in the United States somewhere, and ideally a place like Michigan or South Carolina, where we have a lot of auto business. But we're not going to let that happen. But John Deere has got to understand that if they build in Mexico, they start closing plants. In this case, it was in Iowa. They're going to close a big plant, and a couple of them, and that's just the beginning. The problem is that's just the beginning. Then all of a sudden you'll hear, in a year from now, they're going to do another one. All of a sudden, they're not going to be in the country anymore. They're going to have to pay a very big price to be able to sell that product into the United States, okay? So that's very important. And I just have to say this. So Dave McCormick is here. He's running for the Senate. He's a great gentleman. He's a hero, great warrior. And he's a real warrior, too. Served incredibly in the military, so highly respected, did great in the military, went out, did tremendously in the private sector, and he's running against Bob Casey. Bob Casey never did anything for you. He never did anything for Pennsylvania. I was president for 4 years. I don't even know if I ever met him. I mean, I've met everybody. I don't know if I met him. Maybe I did, but it certainly didn't make a hell of an impression on me. But Bob Casey has done nothing for you as farmers. Well, look at the problems you have. As soon as I left, you have problems. You didn't have problems when I was running things because we ran it and we watched over the farmers. It was very important to me. But Bob Casey has done nothing for the farmers, and he's done nothing for the state. He's got long-term legacy. He inherited the job sort of from his father. And, when that happens, I was telling David, not easy there are other cases like that, too. Never easy to beat, but they're living only on a past reputation of somebody else. In this case, a father. He's done nothing for the state, and I didn't come here for David, but I have a lot of respect for him. And if I only do David, I tell you what, you have to get him. He's an incredible guy. He's going to make your farmers. He's going to help me make the farmers rich. We'll make the farmers rich again. And I appreciate everybody. I appreciate very much everybody. Just hang in there, and I know it's not been pleasant. But the first thing I do is I tell China, you got to start buying. China's not buying like they're supposed to under the agreement. And I'd say, China, you have to start buying. I'd like to, if I can, Lee, I'd like to have a few questions, if you want, from the media in the back. A lot of media here. Yes, ma'am. Well, we're going to protect it by saying you can't come. You can't do it. We don't want you buying our land. We don't want you taking the land and basically taking it off the market. And we don't want you doing it. And they're buying at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We don't want you buying it. It's very easy to do. That's a very easy thing to do. But it's causing a lot of disruption, and that's what they want to do. So we can do that very easily. Question? Yeah, please. Yes, sir.
I've spoken with some economists about your proposal for tariffs, and they say they don't see how it will not make items cost more in the United States.
They'll approve it. They'll approve it. And number one, I don't need them. I don't need Congress, but they'll approve it. I have the right to impose them myself if they don't. I'd rather get their support. The ones that understand business all support it. I think David would be a very big supporter of the tariffs because you understand what's happening, right? David's a great business person, led a great company. No, the ones that understand business, they understand. I'll give you an example. China will charge us, and it's not only China. I hate to keep using China because it's everyone. The European Union is a disaster for you also, by the way. They don't want your farm product. They don't want our cars. They don't want anything, and yet they sell tremendous amounts of Mercedes-Benzes and they sell cars to us, but they don't want our cars. They don't want our farm product at all. They don't want it, but they sell farm product to us. And we have a tremendous deficit. And I had them shaped up real good, but they've gotten out of control. They're really out of control. And Mexico's out of control, to be honest with you. They're taking a lot of our companies in the last couple of years, and companies are moving down to Mexico. They don't know that if I come in it's not going to work out too well for them because they're not going to be able to sell their product into the United States. They're going to have to pay a price which will make it uncompetitive for them to do that. So we are going to do a real job. We need the support of Pennsylvania. It's a very important state, and she is not going to be good to Pennsylvania between pricing and energy. You know, they started off knocking the hell out of the energy that I had. I had it going at a level. We were number 3 and probably number 4. And by the time I left, we were far and away number 1, ahead of Saudi Arabia, ahead of Russia. And then they cut. When they came in, they started cutting. And then prices started going through the roof at the beginning. And what they did is, let's go back to what Trump was doing. We got to go back. And they opened up the stuff that they were cutting. And it was a similar amount. But what they don't say is that we would be at least 3 to 4 times more production of energy right now. And your prices would never be what they are because you can't compete when you have to pay that much for energy. So they didn't do their job. And by the way, if they won, you could forget about it. They want to go to all electric cars. How's that going to work? They don't go far. They're too expensive. They're made in China. And on day one, I end the all electric mandate. And I'm a fan of electric cars. Elon Musk, frankly, gave me the most beautiful endorsement. He endorses me all the time. He says, this is the only guy that's going to save our country. He's been very generous. And I think he makes an unbelievable product. But you have to be able to also sell gasoline-powered cars. You know, we have gasoline, and they want to use something that we don't have, but China has, because for the batteries and everything, China has and controls that market. But the problem is they don't go far. And they have other problems, like if it's cold, you get a little bit cold up here, they don't work too well in the cold. There are a lot of problems and a lot of assets, too. And he's going to do great. His car is fantastic. But you have to be able to have other types, like hybrids. Hybrids are, good. It's a good thing. You have to be able to do that. So I'm going to end that mandate. Can you imagine? They want to almost immediately go to all electric. And we don't have enough electric to take care of ourselves. You go to California, they have blackouts and brownouts every single day. California is a mess. They have the governor of California, Gavin Newsom. Has anybody ever heard of him? But worse, they had an attorney general and a DA who destroyed San Francisco and then destroyed California. And I hate to say, because I have a lot of land in California, I hate to speak badly about places, but frankly, my presidency is much more important than my land. Isn't it nice to know? With Biden, it's the other way around. But my presidency is much more important than my land or my business. And I will say it, California is getting hurt so badly. She destroyed San Francisco, absolutely destroyed San Francisco, and now she wants to destroy our country. She was a horrible attorney general. You could steal $950 worth of merchandise for a store and you wouldn't get prosecuted. But anything above that, you wouldn't get prosecuted either. She was a horrible attorney general. She was a horrible DA. She was a DA of San Francisco. That was the beginning of the end. San Francisco was possibly the best city in our country 15, 18 years ago. And now it's not livable. We're going to bring them all back. We're going to bring the cities back, but it's not even livable. So Pennsylvania is a very important place, and it's, I went to school here. I went to college here, as you know, and it's a great place. It's a fabulous place at the Commonwealth, and we're going to make you very happy. All of those things that we talked about are very easily solvable with you. That's such an easy, that could be done in one day. I had a cabinet maker. He said, sir, China and South Korea are dropping cabinets into our country for nothing, and I can't compete. And I studied it, and I ended up putting a 50 or 75% tariff on all cabinets coming into the country. And I didn't know the guy. I met him previous to going in to the presidency. And I saw him 4 years later. He said, sir, you saved my business. You saved the job. I expanded. They stopped with the dumping. And the steel, the same thing. I think the steel people like me the best. Unfortunately, Biden's let it go. I put tariff. They were dumping Chinese steel into our country, David, at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We've never seen anything like it. And I put a 50% tariff on all steel coming in from China and some other places too, but all steel. And we saved these companies, but Biden has let it go. And we need steel. Look, there are some things you could get from outside. But if we're in a war, And we need army tanks, and we need ships, and we need other things that happen to be made of steel. What are we going to do? Go to China and get the steel? We're fighting China, but do you mind selling us some steel? Think of it. These people don't know what they're doing. So I put big tariffs on steel. They were dumping steel, and it was bad steel, too. It was rotted steel, bad steel. It was imperfect steel. People were building girders for buildings, and they check them, and they're not good. The steel wasn't good. But they were dumping at tremendous levels, and I ended the dumping of steel. But these people, since they took over, this U.S. Steel, I would not allow that deal to happen. U.S. Steel, this was one of the greatest companies in the world. You go back 70 years, this was the big deal. United States Steel, and now they're going to let the Japanese buy it? I wouldn't let it happen. I'd help them so they can make the steel company good again. This was the biggest company in the world, the strongest company, had the biggest reputation. It represented our country, and now we're selling it to the Japanese. The psychology of that is unacceptable to me. So I wouldn't let that deal happen personally, but we'll see what happens. I hope it's going to be, I hope it won't have closed by the time I get there, but I would not let that deal happen. And you're right, they have other things. You look at China, they're opening up coal plants. Every week they're doing a big coal plant. And John Kerry, I watch this poor guy. This guy, it's so pathetic. He flies over in his own jet. You know, his wife has some money from a certain family, right? Yeah, right? And he's got a little jet. He flies over to China. He sees President Xi. Oh, yes, I will consider this very strongly. I will consider your request to stop building coal plants. And then he leaves. And he comes back. Oh, I had a good conversation. Nothing gets done. They're building coal plants. He had zero impact. But we don't build anything here. And what people don't understand is all that pollution in China, all the pollution everywhere in the world, much of it flies right over the United States. Takes 3.5 days, comes in from China, and it's sometimes bad, and it flies right over the United States. So what are we going to do about that? But nobody ever discusses that. They don't want to talk about that. So we'll be nice and clean. Same thing with the oceans. You take a look, the Pacific, it flies in from, they dump it right in the ocean, and in about a week and a half, it's in, welcome to Los Angeles, California, and we're lifting it out of the ocean all day long. We have, it's a massive, big business. We're taking their garbage out of the ocean because it floats right to our West Coast, and other countries too. So it sounds bleak, but we'll get it all straightened out, and we'll get it straightened out fast. And I just want to thank Lee, and I want to thank everybody here. I'll tell you, Rick Grinnell has been amazing with me from just about the beginning. You know, he was the ambassador to Germany, and there was no happier woman in the world than Angela Merkel when I announced that I was taking Rick back to Washington and giving him an even higher position. This was the happiest woman in the world when she heard he was leaving Germany. And actually, in a certain way, she liked him, but in another way, he was sort of brutal because he understood what Germany was doing to the United States, one of the many countries that took advantage of the United States, and he got it. So I want to thank you, and you did a great job, and we appreciate it, and hopefully you'll be able to do a great job again. Thank you very much, Rick, and thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, on behalf of Protecting American Initiative, thank you for being here, but thank you most importantly for seeing the threats to America, both militarily and economic. And we appreciate that. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Congressman, thank you very much. Great job you're doing.
Thank you, everybody.